All right, welcome back to another fine episode of There Will Be Bourbon. Before I bring him in, I need to obviously discuss what I will be sipping on because, as you know, this show is fueled by bourbon. And in honor of, in my opinion, the greatest sports talk radio host in Orlando history, I will be drinking yet another product from the Buffalo Trace Distillery, which, as you all know, is the greatest distillery ever. This is Weller 107. If you can find it, it used to be very easy to do, and it no longer is, at least not at a reasonable price. But anyway, this stuff's delicious. And so that's what's going to be fueling the conversation with a long time. I don't know why he ever actually entertained any of my emails I sent him, but he did. And he's a good man. And so now I would like to bring on Jerry O'Neill. As I said, longtime sports talk radio host in Orlando, Florida. 25 years you did, sir?
That's correct. That's correct. I always called Eric Sarge. So I don't know. Are you no longer in the military?
I'm still am. 18 years still going.
Good for
at
you.
This point.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everything what you've done. Eric, sometimes when we were in Orlando, I was a sports talk show host in Orlando for 25 years. Fortunate to survive all of that.
Yes.
And for those who know college football, UCF is in Orlando. And so I was involved with the radio broadcast for UCF football for 24 seasons. 2019 was my last year. We won 25 straight games. I got a championship ring around here.
So I'm glad you said that. So I was out. That was my second year out here in 2017. So do you subscribe to the national championship?
Am I allowed to move with my phone and go
Absolutely.
get my championship?
Do whatever you got to
ring?
do.
All
Yeah,
right.
do whatever
And
you got
by
to
the way, he's fueled by bourbon. I'm fueled by whiskey. So
exactly. That's why he's a great man right there.
So let me go. My whiskey habit started. Let me think if I can find. Oh, there it is right there. I've got a little man cave. My wife is kind enough to allow me. I got to put the phone down for 1 second, Eric.
Hey, do what you got to do.
All right, I got to pick up this UCF ring.
Oh, he's got the championship ring.
So it's funny about UCF because the year that UCF was the only team in college football to win every game, we beat Auburn in Atlanta. And as a sports talk show host, I never made an argument for UCF to be in the playoff that year. Okay. And what year was that? 2018?
2017.
2017?
Yep.
Time slips. I say this thing about retirement, and my wife and I live in the Villages in Florida, and it's the largest 55-plus retirement community in the country, and I love it. There are 55 golf courses. I played 18 holes of golf today. I play 18 holes of golf almost every day. Jeez. If not 27. And many of the courses up here are, and I'd never played an executive golf course till I came here. So they're 9 holes. They're usually about 7 or 8 par threes, but they have different sets of tees, and meaning you can play the deep set where you'll play 175, 180 yard par 3 holes against some really challenging golf. So that's what I get to do now more than anything. But with UCF, that championship year, for those who know college football, we beat Auburn in Atlanta in the Peach Bowl. Well, Auburn that year had beaten both Georgia and Alabama during the season. So when UCF beat Auburn in Atlanta, the very next week, Georgia would play Alabama in the NCAA in the college football championship game. Remember that wild overtime finish? It was tremendous.
Yep.
Well, that night we were holding a party in downtown Orlando for the championship season that was UCF. After all, we're the only ones.
There it is.
So, right there.
That is a championship ring.
Right there. And I wear it with pride. I tell people I didn't do anything to earn it, but I wear it with pride.
That's legit. So talking with Jerry O'Neill, and for those of you who can't see this because this will go out into podcast formats, he's holding up the UCF championship ring from the 2017 football season. Before I get into everything, because you've seen literally the rise in some bad seasons in that program, but you've seen it kind of come to where it is today.
Sure.
I want everyone to know this. First of all, if you're listening, you can hear the difference between myself and an actual professional. You hear the voice. He's got the golden pipes. All right. Like, again, best voice ever in Orlando sports history. And then also, for those of you who don't know this, I've been trying to do silly stuff like this. I tried to get into sports talk. I tried to do that for a while. I just, you know, my service to the country always kind of came first and took me out of a lot of those efforts. But one thing you may or may not know is that Jerry was kind enough, and maybe, I don't know, just winging it, to just let me come on and actually host with him for an entire 3 hours once upon a time. You remember that?
I sure do, like it was yesterday. I mean, the one thing that I needed a co-host.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that can sit in a studio and have a microphone in front of me and talk for 3 hours. I would die myself of boredom. I would bore people to death, and I would die of boredom. So, when my co-host would go on vacation, and I was the lead host, that doesn't mean I was better. I mean, it was just my experience of being able to get the radio show started and get topics introduced, and then, go from there, play it by ear the rest of the way.
Right.
And I was a guy that would wing it. I mean, we came to work every day where we would have topics that would be natural, whatever they may be, topical stories, etc. But I don't remember how we were first introduced, whether it was by email, whether it was a phone call. But
I would call the show. I would call from time to time, but I think it was probably an email, because you were very responsive. Like you're probably the only one that actually ever responded. I won't ruin the surprise and say that you were the only sports talk host I ever emailed, but you were the only one to ever respond. And so that kind of what started it. I said, you're very supportive. You helped me get it. I remember you helped me get when I started originally doing a little talk show online.
Sure. Right.
You helped me get access to the Orlando Magic and get into the stadium and, go behind the scenes.
I always felt, and who am I? I don't know how to pound a nail. I don't know where the dipstick is underneath my hood of my car. There are a lot of things I can't do. Sitting in a studio and talking on a microphone came natural to me, the ability to communicate. But when young people, and hell, almost everybody now is younger than me, when young people contacted me, I felt a responsibility, honestly, to get back in touch. And you had the background in military. I mean, come on. You have been one of these guys that have put your life on the line for our freedoms, for our country. How could I deny that? So I always felt a kinship, a bond to guys who wanted to talk about trying to find out how they might either enter the profession or get some tips on certain things about the job.
Yeah. And it was, and like I said, just the way my personal, I guess, life at the moment, and the way that was with just being in the military at the time, like, I never had an opportunity to really fully pursue it, but now I'm going to, just do this for fun. And I don't really care what happens one way or the other. I just get a chance to talk and actually do it. Because things, as you know, I mean, technology is so much. I think we first started talking in 2008. Like, things are completely different from back then. Like
correct.
I couldn't do this 2008. That's why, I tried to reach out to anybody I could to see if I could get any opportunity.
See, and I'm happy. I was for 45 years a radio announcer. The first 12 of those, it was before talk radio, before sports talk radio. I was a rock jock. And I've kind of come full circle because in moving to the Villages, and I don't know in your audience if people even know anything about the Villages, it's a pretty cool place for senior adults. Yeah. And people told me I got old. And so I said, okay, I'll retire. And you know what? The government sends me money every month. I like those rules. So apparently I paid into it, called Social Security. And so my wife and I, cashed in. Our employer in Orlando was like, why are you retiring at this age? And I said, A, because I can, and B, because, I feel like I have one chapter left in my life. God will control, and I firmly believe that. God will control how long that chapter lasts. But I want to have some fun before I am carted off into eternal life. And that's what I also believe by faith. And so if that's the case, I want to spend some time, with my wife, who I'm very much still in love with, Annie. We have a beautiful home here in the Villages. Like I said, most all driving we do is on a golf cart because there are mile after mile after mile of golf cart paths. So it's just fun. It's a fun existence. It's a beautiful environment in this part of Florida we really enjoy. So good for us.
It sounds like a rough life. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. So is it as wild as I've heard all the rumors over the years in
No,
the villages?
no. Listen, I don't know if people that follow some of the stories, there is no secret, and it happens to be factual, about probably 88%, maybe 90%, maybe more, maybe 95% are white people. Oh no. Yep. That's the way it is. And, they don't have a guard at the gate or anything like that doesn't allow people of color, but it's about 95 or 90% white. It's also about 90% Republican. No. Yes.
Yeah.
So on President Trump's birthday.
Yeah. I remember Paul Ryan did an event
Correct.
back there in 2012. Yeah.
President Trump came here, a year ago and spoke. He didn't come out into the public. He didn't speak in public, but into a building here. But there was, his birthday was in June, and there was a golf cart parade, and we weren't in it. In fact, I didn't even know anything about it, or we might have been in it, but there were 850 golf carts that circled different parts of the villages and went through the different squares, and it was just cool. So we saw a lot of the carts. Well, at one of the town squares, and there are 3 town squares in the villages, and it's a population now over 125,000.
Wow. Jesus.
There were anti-Trump protesters, and they're pro-Biden, and it got loud to the point where, I know what happened. There were the Biden supporters were F this, F that to every cart that came around the corner, and they were calling them Nazis, and Trump tards is a word that they love to use, and they want to get in your face. And then the one guy turned around to the camera, because the one guy asked him, they asked every cart that came through, where's your white cape? Like, your Ku Klux Klan cape. Yeah. So he said, it caught everybody off guard when they were doing this. Nobody knew it was coming. When they turned the corner, here are these protesters. And so they're F this. I mean, literally, this woman went out and was F you, F you, F you. Well, some people got under their skin. And the one guy yelled after he was asked where his white cape was. He went, yeah, white power, white power. Well, that got national news.
That got the news.
And it was a blemish on the people here, the lifestyle here. It has nothing to do, hardly at all, with the villages. But you kind of get branded that way. Yeah. And I'm disappointed, because that's not who this group is. It's more about your golf handicap. It's more about, getting out and just enjoying life, and realizing that you're retired, and yet, you don't have to twiddle your thumbs trying to find something to do. That's why I kind of support this community.
Absolutely. Well, and then kind of just to touch on what you said, and I spoke with my guest last night. It's kind of the same thing. I think that we've kind of devolved in a way that we've completely stripped the value of the term Nazi. Because that actually means something, but anyone who decides to think differently than the left in this country is somehow labeled a racist, a Nazi, a fascist. Correct. Everything that is the complete antithesis of what those terms actually mean.
That it's mind-boggling to me. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm gonna share with you. I have always said on the radio, as a talk show host, I tell you what I think, not what to think. I don't tell you what to think. I said it would be on my tombstone, except we're going to be cremated. So, you won't see it at a cemetery anywhere. But I've always said, I tell you what I think, not what to think. And so I've been honestly outraged as far as I go with rage, and I don't. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I have the one chapter left. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life drowning in some of the things that are going on. But as it regards the storyline surrounding Black Lives Matter, way before it became painted on streets, I always told people, if you look at somebody's skin color and you think you're better based on your skin color, you're evil. To me, that's evil.
Absolutely. Agree 100%.
But don't tell me how to approach life. I don't play by your rules. Right. My rules are very simple. I want to treat everybody like a brother. Yep. If I don't know you, then now we can't. I want to extend my hand and shake your hand and say, hey, I'm Jerry. Have we met? I don't think we've met. You can't do that now. Yeah. Because of of COVID. But I've always believed when I first heard years ago, Black Lives Matter, I said, well, of course they do. All lives matter,
Yeah.
you know? And now I say that, and I'm branded as though I'm some heretic, as though now I need to get on my knees and ask for forgiveness. And I stop right there and say, hey, I don't do that. I don't play by your rules. And I don't apologize for that.
I agree. And you know, and that's the other problem with the Black Lives Matter movement, is that I think it's geared, or it was started for a legit cause. Exactly what you just laid out, that of course,
Right.
obviously every life matters and we need to bring attention to what's going on in the Black community. And then I've always said this as it ties into that, because I think a lot of it came out of the unfortunate police issues that go on with sometimes the Black community, and they get amplified through the media. But
of course,
my contention is we would have fixed, or maybe not fixed, but we would have addressed and confronted this issue years ago if we would just highlight the fact that this goes on in the white community, the Hispanic community, the Asian community. There's an issue with police brutality and violence amongst Americans. And that should be the focus, not just when it affects one group. Because when you only focus and highlight or spotlight one group, you make others feel like they're somehow at fault.
There's no question about that. I live in an area here in Florida where if you drive 5 miles out into the country, you see incredible poor communities.
Oh, yeah.
You see real poor communities. Yeah. We don't think about that in America. You know, we really don't. We think about the inner city. We see how poor and wretched the inner city can be, but we don't see rural America. And it's not all of, I grew up in rural America.
Yeah.
I'm from the cornfields and wheat fields of northern Indiana. My dad owned his own business. It was the grain elevator. So I know rural because I grew up in the country. But there are a lot of people who live in the country who've got a trailer or a part of a trailer park. You know, there's a lot of poverty in America with white people. We don't talk about that. We act as though white people have influence and white people have privilege and white people have wealth. Well, that's not the case for all of, quote, whitey. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that's why I said I feel like a lot of our issues are coming from, they get amplified through the mainstream media, which I still feel is dying in this country because most people don't look to the cable networks for news other than entertainment. I think that's what it's devolved into. But then at the same time, the things that are going on in America, we've become beholden to the identity politics. We constantly pit one group against another, and we don't try to make these American issues. And by refusing to make them American issues, you automatically you bring about animosity. You bring about some sort of conflict that is not necessarily there. Like, we can all get behind what I just said, but we don't present it that way. We don't present it through that frame to the American public. We make it look like, oh, this group is completely marginalized and is at constant risk for death, when it's just not true, because it affects every group in this country. It affects the American population.
The other thing is, in our two-party system,
which I can't stand.
It's all about power.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I will vote for Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump before. I thought the way he conducted himself during the Republican primaries 4 years ago were embarrassing. The way he belittled other, legitimate opponents. And so I couldn't bring myself to vote for him in 4 years ago. I'll vote for him this time. And people go, how could you vote for him? I'm not voting for him. I'm voting for the right side, what I believe to be the law and order side in America. I don't want to see what I have witnessed from the other side of the ledger. I don't buy into some of the gimmickry. And, the way that they've conducted themselves, whether it was this Russian storyline for 3 years, when I don't think anybody over the age of 12 thought there was any legitimacy to that. And yet it ruled day in and day out America for 3 years. It was bogus, in my opinion. I tell you what I think, not what to think. So the same thing goes with the running him out of what was the thing that they did with that call from Ukraine that led them to do,
impeachment. Yeah, that led
impeach
to the
him,
impeachment. Yeah,
to impeach him. I mean, I just feel like from day one, he's been, the left has tried to regain power. And it's not about America. It's not about building and making America better. It's about the power that you will try to take over. And it's weakened us, I think,
Well, and this goes back to when I first really started to pay attention to politics was when I went to Iraq in 2003. And I was 22 years old at the time. Like, none of it really interested me at the moment. I just, the first election I ever voted in was in 2000. I said this last night. I voted for Ralph Nader. I was the typical college kid who was like, F the two-party system. I'm going to vote for this guy, knowing that he had no chance in hindsight of ever winning.
Right.
But I looked at like kind of the formation as I really started kind of getting into politics while I was over there, because I started watching some of the things that went on with the Reconstruction efforts, like the civilian that was put in charge, Paul Bremer. I've talked about him and some of the asinine things that he did. And so that's kind of what fueled me when I went back to college, because I left obviously to join after 9/11. But when I went back, I majored in political science at the University of Central Florida. That's what I got my undergrad in. And I just remember thinking, I would watch Fox News, I would watch MSNBC. Well, it was still coming about, but CNN as well. And I just remember thinking, like, none of this is designed to inform us. And I was thinking that as a 22-year-old. And I'm still dumb, don't get me wrong, but I am a little wiser at this point. And I just don't think that we've ever kind of presented fairly the Republican Party in this country. We just don't. Because you look at how President Bush, 43, how he was treated during the Iraq War, after 9/11, yeah, they kind of paused on everything. But once we went into Iraq, yes, there's critiques to go around. I got it. But how he was treated up until 2008 when he stepped aside and President Obama was elected, we saw how President Obama was treated. And it goes on both sides. I'm not saying that hey, everyone treated him fairly. Fox News is but one outlet, but I would never say that Fox treated President Obama fairly, just like I will never say any of these networks treat President Trump fairly.
Right.
That's what tends to take place in our quote mainstream media, because it is, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, it is dominated by left-wing thought. That's just the reality. Like, you cannot view any of those outlets, read those papers, and not think that that's where their slant comes from. But that, as I also highlighted, goes back into the fact that most of this stuff is designed around entertainment and pandering to one specific point of view and the base, right?
Sure.
And so now here we are. And my brother and I have talked about this. Look, do you realize, you're older than me. You knew who President Trump was before he was president. Like, Donald Trump was a rock star in the 80s and came out of that. But everyone loved that guy. Like, musicians wrote songs about it. Like, he was adored in Hollywood. He was adored until he.
I'm too old, maybe, and too stuck in my ways. I thought he was a joke. I thought it was a joke. Yeah. I remember when
we all
in the state of Minnesota. I'm serious.
Yeah, we all did. Absolutely.
I've said about Donald Trump, and I will vote for him because I oppose the left more. And I'm going to tell you honestly, in my lifetime, my wife and I have supported pro-life movements. We are pro-life because of our faith. We believe in our Christian faith that life begins at conception. We believe in God, and we don't deny that, and we don't apologize for it. I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ will return in glory, and we will end this whole thing that is life on earth, and there will be heaven and there will be hell. I don't apologize for my Christian faith beliefs, but it is what is central to me. And therefore, when I look at certain things that happen, Donald Trump is a dunce, in my opinion. The man is a dunce, but I believe more on the right side of the ledger than I could ever see on the left. I think the left is misguided I think at times it borders on evil, and people in this audience may go, wow, what a lunatic you've invited here tonight. But that's what guides me. And,
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. We used to watch the news. We used to watch
Yeah.
the nightly news
Yeah.
religiously.
We all
We
did.
can't,
Nope.
because
Not anymore.
I find myself cussing while I watch it. And my wife is distraught to the point she thinks I'm going to have a heart attack. So we'd rather go out on our golf cart and ride around in the,
It's
the
just
late
not worth it,
afternoon
right? It's just
weather.
not worth
No,
it.
it's not.
It's not.
It's just not. And here's the other thing. I'm a sports talk show host for 25 years in Orlando. I don't know if I will watch any more sports because the political message within it. I mean, Orlando,
Yep.
and Disney World, where
Yep.
the ESPN
Mhm.
center out there. I remember when we broadcast live from the grounds of Disney when they first opened the
Mhm.
ESPN Wide World of Sports complex, and that's where
Yeah.
the basketball will be played out there. But, with respect, and again, I tell you what I think, not what to think.
Mhm.
When you have across the court Black Lives Matter, that offends me because you can tell me again what to think, but I'm going to tell you what I think. And that is when you take a knee during my national anthem, that offends me. And if you say, well, that's your problem, maybe it is my problem, but that's who I am.
Mhm.
I believe that guys like you, guys like my dad, I was born, as you see, I got a bad eye. Okay. When the Vietnam War was on, I got a draft lottery number. It was number 1. But because of that thing right there, I failed it. I went 4F. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
failed my test. I wasn't able to go serve in this man's army. They said, no, we'll work it. We'll try it without you. Okay. That's what they basically said.
They
And I
always
said,
will.
hey,
They'll still go
if
on
you need a
without you.
second tier group, call on me. I'll be willing. But that's the way it was for me. But when you take a knee during my anthem, that offends me. I don't care if you can tell me 6 ways to Sunday that I'm not supposed to be offended. I am, because of guys like you who went overseas that, and fought for us after our towers are bombed and people came to this country and took lives of American citizens of every creed, of every color.
Right.
I'm still, hurt. 9/11 mattered to me, and it always will. I will never forget. That's what we used to preach on 9/11
Never
during our
forget.
sports talk
Yeah.
show host. Today is 9/11. We will never forget. That's
Mhm.
the kind of that's who I am at my core. Okay.
And you should be allowed to feel that way. And that's what I
Correct.
feel like isn't happening. It's like unless you're either you have to support what everyone else is doing at this moment, and you don't get to feel like you feel. And that's not America.
No, it's not.
No, you know what we're
And
supposed to
again,
be.
I don't want to force my opinion on you. But again, I don't play by, and I'm not talking to you,
No, I
Eric.
know,
I'm
I
talking to
understand.
anybody who
Mhm.
tells me, well, wait a minute, that's racist. No, look, I don't play by your rules. I play by my own.
Yeah.
I live by my own rules. I'll be glad to share what rules I play by. You don't have to play by mine,
Right.
but I don't have to play by yours.
And that's also American, right? But that's what it's
I think
supposed to
so.
be. Yeah.
I think so.
And man, you said a lot. I know I almost wrote it down, but I didn't. I just think, well, going back to what you said, so you mentioned you won't watch sports. Is that because of
Well,
what you
I'll be
said?
honest.
Now,
I have peaked as we do this live. We're 2 days into the baseball season, and
I've
I'm a
watched all
diehard
3
Brave.
Giants. I'm a diehard Giants fan, and
See,
we
I'm a
finally
diehard
beat the
Braves fan.
Dodgers. I fucking love it.
Did you win? Did you win?
Yeah, they
game
won.
3?
They
All right.
man,
Cool.
the Giants have committed 7 errors in 3 games. I thought they were about to blow
Good.
it again. Like they can't field routine ground balls. This is so frustrating for me.
What's interesting, the Braves got beat 1-0 in the opener in I call it Citi Field in New York.
The new
And
stadium.
then today, Marcell Ozuna, who was picked up by the Braves in the offseason, with 2 strikes in the bottom of the 9th, hit a solo homer to tie the game in Citi Field. And then the Braves went and got 3 runs in the 10th inning.
Okay.
And held on to win the game. So, I'm into that. The NBA, I really don't think I will see the ball bounce. I really don't. And I covered the Orlando Magic, for 25 years.
That's been my only access ever to a pro team because of you. Well, before we talk about the NBA, but I just wanted to bring back, do you like – well, let me further back it up. So you mentioned the political things are kind of turning you off, but here's where I come out on this, man, because none of this really, it doesn't interest me. Like, I've never looked to a professional athlete for a political opinion or
Same
guidance.
here.
I tune in, and it's not to discount pro athletes. I'll discount some, like LeBron
Right.
James, because I don't think the man is remotely intelligent enough to hold the position that he does. He's just
Right.
great at his sport. But if he was my height, no one would give a shit. But he's not.
True.
He's the greatest basketball player on the planet. So everyone, somehow
Well,
looks up to him for like
what celebrity gives.
celebrity culture in
And
this
let's
country.
be
Well,
honest,
Trump, I told you, like Trump before that, like Trump
Right.
was adored. If Trump would have had the D next to his name and not the R, we would never
Right.
have these issues.
If as technology has advanced, we're doing things like this.
Right.
So it gives everybody in the world a platform. We know that everybody with a camera, with a phone, has a camera. And so, you're also a photographer, a videographer.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like that transpired, during 20 years ago, et cetera, like that. Athletes never had that kind of platform. And those who take it, is there risk? Well, let's be honest. It's in my opinion, it's kind of ironic where we talk about, oh, woe is me. And with respect to LeBron James, and I admire greatly his talents, but let's be honest, from the time he was 17, the man has been a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
So don't tell me, oh, woe is me. You've been a 1%er the majority of your life, right?
Right. That's absolutely right. And that's why. So I wanted to kind of, and so before I go further, as I'm looking for the specific quote, but to tie it in back to sports, like I tune in to see how the final score gets achieved. That's it. I don't need to think like my quarterback of my football team, or I don't need to think like the point guard of the Magic. I don't care about that. Like, that's the whole point of America. Like, you get to have all your opinions too.
Right.
And we don't have to be aligned in them. But at the end of the day, like when I'm watching sports, when I watch the San Francisco Giants, I grew up a Giants fan. I just happen to be fortunate enough to live out here in this part of the country. Finally, I can watch them every day. I could never do that growing up. So I don't care that, Gabe Kapler and everyone except for, I think, Coonrod or whatever the dude that stood. I don't care that everyone's kneeling. Like, I don't. Go for it. Knock yourself out. I just want to make sure you win between innings 1 through 9. That's what I care about.
See, and I wrote, I created a new Twitter profile. I won't tell you what it is.
I need to find it then.
But what it was, the reason I did it is there was a Bay Area writer for NBC in the Bay Area who took issue with that athlete. I forget his name. He's not one of the stars of the Giants. Who's the only guy who didn't?
Sam Coonrod. I'm looking at him now.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the only one. He's the only one that didn't take a knee.
Yep.
And he said it's because he's a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to elaborate on it. And this author of this article found fault with that. And I said,
everyone does.
wrote him.
Everyone finds fault with everything.
But I said, who made you God? I think it was Milton Poole or something. The kids,
I know
the guy's last name is Poole. I said, who made you God? It's like I've said to you. I tell you what I think. I don't tell you what to think. Yep. I allow you to come to your own decisions in life, and you are responsible for you. But don't tell me how to live. Don't tell me what to think. That offends me. You know what I'm saying? I'm human too. And I don't want to infringe on you or any other human being. I don't want to have influence on anyone. If I say something that you agree with, great. We can be brothers or sisters in those thoughts. But for you to challenge another man's thoughts and chastise
What's his religion? It was his religion.
Correct.
That's even
worse. If you chastise him on his beliefs, who made you God, in his world? You're not.
Right. So here, I found the quote. Jason Whitlock, right? You're familiar with him?
Of course.
Okay. So Jason Whitlock is one of the few, I think, left.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, I think he's one of the few honest voices still left. But he wrote a column the other day, and his quote in here, and so for everyone who's watching or just listening, if you don't know who Jason Whitlock, I don't want you to think that these are white guy Eric's words. No, these are a black man who's came from the inner city ghetto, as he'll describe his own story. These are his words. And he said, quote, "The courageous black professional athlete will be the one bold enough to point out the fraudulence of the movement." And that is what I think won't get any attention when it does happen, because we've already seen this. Like, I'll actually look, I'll bang on LeBron James all we want, but I'll give him credit for not playing the NBA's game where he's like, no, I'm not going to put a fucking phrase on the back of my jersey. Like, you didn't talk to me about that. And then you're going to limit it anyway. So how about I just put my name on the back? Guys like that. Now, if LeBron James would have put something on his back, I think he is smart enough to realize he's going to get all the attention one way or the other. But he completely stripped the power out of the media on that aspect, because he's like, nah, you're not going to talk about why I did what I did. I'm just going to put my name on the back.
Right.
So I do give him respect for that, because I think, like, and this goes back to what I said about, hey, do you think I'm really going to tune in to watch the NBA to see what, Marquise Fultz, what's on the back of it? Like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm sure there are people who do. Oh, do we got the cat? Is this the cat you've always talked about, or is this a different one?
That's my cat, Callie.
It is Callie. I've definitely heard about Callie over the years. That's so cool.
We used to have a cat named Monkey.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was Monkey. Monkey. How long did Monkey
came into our
for?
lives? And Monkey, after about 15 years, we had to put down. It was the saddest day of our lives. And then our vet called us a year later and asked if we wanted to take on this rescue.
Aww.
And so this is 14 years later. So, here I thought I'd never be a pet owner.
Yep.
And for, 25 years of the last 26, we've had a cat. And I would,
your entire sports talk career.
Correct. And she's a little angel.
She is. Hey, so I'm moving in with my girlfriend next weekend in Napa, and she has a cat.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She has a cat. My daughter and I have a ferret, but she has a cat. She calls the cat Dottie. I call the cat Chunk, because she's pretty hefty.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, that's what happened to
She's very sweet. She's only about a year old, so she's still a fucking demon. But
we didn't know how to raise a cat, and so she got to be a fat cat. So I had to give her a shot of whatever it was every night. It was like so sad because she ballooned, But now Callie has just remained. She's a calico, and so she's a female.
It's pretty.
She's
got great markings. She got blue eyes.
Beautiful, huh?
She have blue eyes?
I don't think so.
No, maybe just the way that she looks.
Yeah, maybe she does.
Maybe
she does. She got lost here. I got panicked here in the Villages. We put her out in the backyard for just a little bit one night, and I went out about 2 minutes later, and she was gone.
Took off for freedom.
And so that was very scary. But she loves her daddy,
as you
should. Can tell.
The breadwinner. That's right. She should. She understands who the greatest sports talk radio.
Oh, she's a showboat. Look at her. Look at her.
Very calm. See, I couldn't do that with this. Well, I guess it's technically going to be our cat. She's just too young still, but
we were out there. UCF played
Stanford.
Stanford.
Yep, beautiful. Did you actually go out to the game?
Oh God, yes. I'm the.
How was that campus?
Reporter.
Isn't that campus beautiful?
I loved it.
Oh, that place.
Here's
is
the thing that year. We had a quarterback who got injured in the Stanford game on the third snap of our first series offensively. He broke his right. He broke. No. That's way before Milton.
Oh, okay.
I forget his name. It was the third play of the game, but he broke his hand hitting it against a helmet. He had to have surgery on it. He missed like the first 10 games or something like that.
Mm.
And the week before that, we had lost our key wideout on a kick return to a torn ACL. And here we're playing. Who's the running back for Stanford that's now in the NFL?
Christian McCaffrey.
He was there. I mean, UCF was like, we are so overmatched. Stanford was one of the picks that year to get to the Final Four. But the first week of that season, they lost their first game at Northwestern. So here we go out there, and it was almost scoreless at the half. And then they hit like a fluke play, a 50-yard flea flicker for a touchdown. They won the game going away later. But it was beautiful to go out there and spend time. Yeah. We went to, PNC Park?
Well, that's you're talking about the Giant Stadium or the Padres?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, the Giant Stadium at the time it was AT&T Park. Now it's Oracle.
No,
so you did.
No, it was AT. It's still AT&T, or they changed it to
no.
Oracle.
It's Oracle as of last year.
We stayed near San Francisco, San Mateo.
Okay, yeah.
And, we went to a Giants game that night.
Is it beautiful, isn't it?
Friday night. It's tremendous.
I would go there just to hang out. I don't even need to watch the game. I love being in that building. Like, it's just magical to me.
No,
Like I said, I'm a Giants fan, so
Sure. I'm a diehard baseball fan. I've been a baseball fan since the Milwaukee Braves existed, And I honestly, I was a sports talk show host for 25 years. And prior to Orlando, I was a sports talk show host in another market in Florida. So, sports talk has been my career.
Mm-hmm.
But getting away from it, and I said to my wife when I retired, I said, I know you feel like a game was always more important than you. Because, Eric, as a sports talk show host, you're a 7-day-a-week guy.
Yeah, you
got games at night. You got
Mm-hmm.
games every weekend. You got to pay attention. If you're going to be on top of your game come Monday through Friday to talk about all the games, you better be watching games. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when I retired, I love college football. So when we moved up here, obviously I follow UCF. I'm a Notre Dame guy because I grew up in Northern Indiana.
Unbelievable. And Go Blue.
And so I still, love Notre Dame as well as UCF.
That's your only flaw, Jerry. That's it.
You think so? You got what? Are you high?
I hate Notre Dame. I was waiting for the "Are you high?" I was waiting for that to come out.
That was one of my key
that
lines
was the
to
one.
callers.
Yep.
That's what I always said to people. Like, what are you high? Standard. And normally most of them probably were.
Well, hey, out here everybody's high apparently, but me. I can't. Army, but yeah.
But I grew up, in the 60s and early 70s. So I know what being addicted to weed was like. That's basically what it was. And, but I don't know, I truly don't, that the weed is 10 times stronger than anything I smoked, except the stuff that came back from the Orient, stuff that came back from Nam or
you know what? When I finally retire and get out of the Army, Jerry, I'll reach out to you and we'll talk again, and I'll give you some other stories. Let's just leave it at
Thai stick is the stuff that we used to
I'll
smoke.
leave it at that. Thai stick. Thai stick.
Stuff that came from Thailand. That shit would kill you.
What's funny now is being out here, because it's still not legal in Florida, right?
No.
Okay. So out here, the billboards are the funniest thing because they just advertise for whether it's delivery, price, size. They got these little cute marketing gimmicks for everything.
What is let's see, we used to buy by the ounce.
There's a billboard now for the eighth. You can get eighth of an ounce for $20 and they'll deliver to you. Hey, and there's one down the street in Vallejo. They do 20% veterans discount. So
really? Well, like I said, I am told that it is 10 times stronger than almost anything that we ever had.
Well, if you ever do a West Coast trip, I would encourage you to partake. You are free to do whatever you want at this point.
I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. Well, if you do ever on the West Coast, Napa, we got the wine. You guys like wine?
Right.
All right.
Of course. Duh.
Okay. Well, my girl is a partner in a wine label, so we can.
Really?
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
We would love
way out of my league, but don't tell her. She'll need to know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
No, we would. Whoops, I'm sorry. The whiskey got away from me there just a little bit.
That's a foul.
Fumbled my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, life is good for us. We're happy about where we're at. My wife doesn't like for me to even tell the story, but she is a 2-time cancer survivor. She had colon cancer 15 years ago, and then it was colon cancer, and then it returned immediately. And the night of her second surgery, the surgeon told me, I don't think she'll live a year. Well, that was 15 years ago. Wow. She's been cancer-free that entire time. We are so blessed. Mm-hmm. And we believe, that we received, honestly, a miracle that happened, because he told me I wasn't able to get all of the cancer. And when you hear that, it will take you to your knees in a hurry. And that, I'm just saying, I was not strong enough to stand. I was weeping so hard. And then the other thing, Eric, and maybe it's the whiskey talking,
Let it
But
go.
for my wife and I, we retired and we moved here to the Villages in May of 2019. And on Thanksgiving Day, we were waiting for our son, our only child, to arrive from Orlando. He's a Dallas Cowboy diehard. And so he didn't show up for kickoff. And it's like, duh, come on, what's going on? Anyway, our son died of a massive heart attack on Thanksgiving Day.
See, I
And
didn't know
so
how he died. I was never going to reach out to ask that, but that's
we
crazy.
we lost our only child on Thanksgiving
Heart
Day of
attack.
2019. So we've had a tough year, you know,
Yeah.
and mom especially. And so I feel my job, you know, is to have been a provider and someone who is a caretaker. And it's been a tough year. When you throw in COVID, when you throw in everything else, but you know, when you throw in the holidays and Mother's Day and Father's Day, to have lived through this the last year, it's been a very difficult year for us.
Yeah, I don't even know how you could. I don't even know how to deal with that, to be honest. I have a daughter who's
Yeah,
14. She's in the other room there. I can hear her messing around on my guitar.
sure.
You talk about COVID. I've discussed this enough, not that I would expect you to have heard it, but both of my parents caught it about 2 months ago. And my dad is the prototypical guy who shouldn't have made it, if I'm being honest, because of just
Well,
his health issues and everything. And they're both fine.
sure,
And I'm blessed and grateful for that. But
sure.
yeah, it's unfortunately it's not something you're ever ready for when it does happen.
No,
I lost my grandfather last year in November, and that he's the main reason I joined the Army. You know, he of that branch. He was
that's cool.
always the. If I take after anybody in my family, it's him. And that guy, like the guy, is the most iconic member of my family to me. Like he was always just like he was a rock star to me. And so when I finally lost him, it was just like I felt like I'd be fine, you know, I'm good. And then when I finally got to the funeral and I saw him land, like, dude, I lost it. Like there's no way. I spoke at his funeral later on. And yeah, unfortunately, like death is something we all know it's going to happen. Right. But we're never ready for it. We're just not.
No, and
And then you as a
you
father, I
know,
can't imagine losing
our
your
son,
son.
our son lived in Orlando, so
Mm,
he was a periodic visitor with us. It's almost surreal even to this day. You know, it's not as though he was a child who lived with us. I can't even imagine losing and burying a child who lives with you.
yeah.
So there are moments, obviously, that we hold on to one another where we can't control our emotions because it's still so raw and so fresh. And yet, you know, it's something that we have had to come to terms with and deal with. And there are nights where we just hold each other, and my wife Annie and I will celebrate our 38th wedding anniversary in August,
I'm
and we're proud
39,
of that.
Jerry. So that's awesome.
Huh?
I said, I'm
Yeah,
39. So that's awesome.
yeah. We got married in 1982. Come here, Kelly. You can come here, showboat. She still wants to be a part of this.
As she should. I wish she could talk. We could ask her some questions.
She does talk. She loves her dad. I
What's it
just
like
got to be
having
honest.
Jerry as your dad? What's that like, Callie?
Exactly. She'd say, "Hey, this guy is the greatest." Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
You
Exactly.
know, the thing is, the truth is, though, about sports is that going back to my years as a sports talk show host, I don't miss it compared to being retired because
Mm,
I threw myself at it. You know, I worked
yeah.
so hard because I'm a dumb Hoosier. I'm born in Indiana,
And you're a Notre
and
Dame
when
fan, so
and Notre Dame guy. But what I tried to do every day on the radio was prove that I'm not an illiterate. I always told people I don't know many words, but I have good diction. You know, so I try to use that as a positive.
So like let's go back a little bit. I just because there's two things I kind of want to know from you. One is why did you get into or how did you get into radio, number one? obviously, I don't know, maybe you noticed you had a good voice. I don't know. But how did you get into radio? Did you go to college for that, or did you do just?
I went to junior college. I'm from Indiana.
Yeah.
And I was recruited as a basketball player to go to a junior college. So let's be honest, I'm not going to Duke or Carolina or IU. I'm going to a junior college on a basketball scholarship. So I could play the game a little bit to a level that junior college athletes are capable of playing. Okay? So let's not pretend I'm Magic Johnson.
I understand our fleeting athletic abilities well.
In my second year, this is in Minneapolis. All right. Mm-hmm. So in Minneapolis, as a second year junior college basketball player, I learned about this in Minneapolis. I learned where all these, the third precinct of Minneapolis that was ruined, knocked to the ground. My broadcasting school was a block and a half away. So as a basketball player in Minneapolis, late in my second year junior college, I learned about a broadcasting school in Minneapolis. And I went down there and talked to the people there and learned that I could end up go to the broadcast school. And they guaranteed you a full-time job in radio if you came to the school. It's like, duh, you guarantee me a full-time job. I'm in. So I went to this 10-month radio broadcasting school and ended up getting a full-time job, of all places, Fort Myers, Florida, as a rock jock. There was no such thing as talk radio. This is 1974. And so I became a rock jock in Fort Myers, Florida. I'd never been to Florida. It pinched me. I'm leaving Minneapolis. It's snowing. And I now am moving to Fort Myers, Florida. And I'm going to play rock and roll music. What's not to like? And so I did that for 12 years. Oh, wow. And then I thought, holy God, what am I going to do with my life? I'm playing music for, 12 years. And talk radio started to evolve. And I became a talk radio personality. And I'm doing crime and juvenile crime and county commission meetings. And it's like, I'm going to kill myself if I have to do talk radio. So I evolved into sports talk radio.
Yeah, okay. That makes more sense. And
I'm talking, so I got the opportunity to do sports talk radio. And then this job, they came to me in Fort Myers, Florida, and they said, there's a new all sports radio station opening up in Orlando. It's the first all sports station ever in Orlando. And so I applied and I won the job, and boom, the rest was history.
Was that 580? Was that the one?
No, 540.
540, that's right, 540.
We were 540 AM. Eventually, they took our 540 and moved it to 740. It was the same format.
740 the team, yeah.
And so we were 740 for many, many, many years. And then, Eric, the stupidity of the ownership, they decided, we're going to change formats. They came to me and said, we're going to change formats. I said, what? What are you going to do? They said, we're going to take the sports station and make it Mexican music.
I remember this.
I said, what, are you kidding me?
I do remember this.
I said, are you kidding me?
It wasn't even Puerto Rican music, which was actually popular because the entire population of Orlando that isn't white is Puerto Rican. So, yeah, Mexican was odd.
So I changed radio stations. You remember that.
Yeah,
I moved across town.
Yep.
I would not have wanted to do that. I wanted to stay at the station I was at, but they changed formats. There's no more sports. So I went across town to another sports station, and I was over there almost 10 years. That's where you and I met.
Yep.
And then I had the opportunity later to go back because they decided to ditch the Mexican music format.
Oh, imagine that.
They went back. Yeah, no kidding. Duh. And so they went back to all sports, and I went back over there, and that's where I finished my career in Orlando.
Did you finish with Mike Tuck?
No.
Okay.
The shot doctor.
What? You went back with the shot doctor?
Yes, for 2 years.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
Mike Tuck, who might be, in on this. Mike Tuck was always part-time. So
Okay.
I called him one time and I said, Mike, I can get you a full-time job if you come over and join me. And so he said, boom, I'm in. So I hired him. Well, after we were over there for about 8 years,
Yeah.
he got fired.
He got fired.
He got fired. And so eventually I had an opportunity to go back to iHeart, which was Clear Channel. I had an opportunity to go back and join the Shot Doctor. And so I did that the last 2 years I was in Orlando.
How, how did Mike get fired? Or is this not?
Well, it wasn't anything he did. It
It's just
was
us. It
that,
was kind of.
no, it was the economy. The
Okay,
economy was so
okay.
bad.
That's fine. All right, that makes
The
sense. 'Cause I'm
economy
just
was
like,
so bad.
yeah.
that-
I mean, I remember meeting Mike a few times, and like, he's just nicest guy.
No, he is. He was. The ownership came to me and said, "Hey, we got to fire Mike because we can't pay the bills." And it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. But you know what I honestly said? I said, fire me. Fire me. I'm old enough I could retire. They go, no, we're not going to fire you. We're going to fire Mike.
Oh, wow. So the ageism worked against him at this time. Usually it's always the old guy that gets the axe.
Correct. I told them, though. I said, fire me. They said, you're the reason that we are alive. And I said, well, that's a compliment. But on the other hand,
it's the golden
are we gonna have lights in the building when we do the show?
Hey, that's kind of the best thing about radio is you don't really need lights, right? You just kind of
true. It was
wow,
an amazing.
So you went back with Shot because I always thought, yeah, because I remember when you and him originally parted. I mean, I know he was a nice guy. I met him once, but he was like, anytime you let him talk, I turned it off.
It was Rain Man. It was Rain Man.
I was never a Shot Doctor fan. I just liked
Shot
how you would.
Doctor in Orlando, for those who know, for those who don't know, was like, your co-host was Rain Man. So anytime there was a sports political story, we couldn't talk about it because he only wanted to talk strikes and balls, jump shots and 3-pointers. He just wanted to do pure sports.
Yep.
And I wanted to do a little bit more topical. You know what I'm saying?
I think sports could. I think you may have missed your window to that. Like you did your thing forever, you retired and all, but I feel like you would have a bigger role probably today doing that because you are also kind of what Clay Travis and those guys are doing. Like you're not left wing, but you're also not overtly the other side. You're just honest. And that's what's misrepresented. You know what I mean? Like
I've always said, I have strong opinions about life. And, I go back to some things that I said earlier in this show, which is I tell you what I think. I don't tell you what to think.
Right.
You're a human being. You have a brain. I'm going to respect you. If you and I disagree, we may come to, we may have strong opinions one against each other, but I'm not going to rail on you as a human being. You know, I mean, you are my brother, and you and I may disagree on some things, but that's not going to keep us from a friendship, a bond. I hope not. It's not going to be. That's not what I'm going to do. I have lost friends, Eric. I'll be honest with you. I have lost friends, a very, very dear friend, because he made politics number one.
I think
he made politics first over our friendship.
I think we all.
And so I had to say, well, I can't do that.
Yeah, I just don't. And the girl I talked to yesterday, a good friend of mine who I met through the military in in Arif John in Kuwait in 2015. I just talked to her for 2.5 hours last night. We don't agree on anything other than our chosen method of working out and our love for this country. But she's articulate enough to at least talk her side, and it's great. And that's my whole point. That's the original reason why I wanted to do this show. I don't want to broadcast an echo chamber. I think that's boring. It's stupid. I want to prove that we can have Americans with their views, whether they're different from me or not, and we can still be civil and have a conversation. And usually it centers around bourbon, right? So
I hear you.
That is my thing.
I'm literally moving in my own home because my phone tells me that
Does
It
your
is
phone
low
die
on power,
on a
but what I'm going to do is boost it here just a little bit. But I don't know how long you want me to bore you and others.
Hey, we'll keep going. I was going to ask you because it's about 10 o'clock your time. I know you probably got another 38 holes or something to play tomorrow, but I did have a few more things to ask you. But if we need to
Let's
wrap it
talk.
up, we can.
No,
Okay.
dude, you know
So,
me.
and this is important to me because I am a UCF grad myself. I do follow the team. I grew up a Michigan football fan, and I cannot stand the program anymore. So I'll still watch, but most of my attention is on finally my alma mater because they matter, and they never did for a very long time. They
Sure.
put out a lot of pro players. They've had a lot of great players throughout the history of that.
Tremendous.
Yeah. So let me start there. Who in your 24 years, whether it was your favorite player to cover or what?
Wow.
Who stands out the most, I guess?
Oh, there's too many guys.
Exactly.
There are too many
But
guys.
now you got to pick one.
I'll be honest with you though. I love the Griffin twins, Shaquem and Shaquille.
Yeah.
There were nights
Thriving in the
where
NFL right now.
those guys lost. They were with the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep.
And if, for those who forget, the one is the one guy with the one arm.
Shaquem.
And I'm a twin. And so twins mean something to me. I have a twin brother named Terry. Of course, I got the looks, I got the brains, not. But
does he sound like you?
Guys,
do you guys have a similar voice?
See, no. He's a newspaper guy. Plus, he married money.
Plus, he married.
But we won't get into that.
All right. Shots fired. Shots fired. Okay.
More power to him. You know what I'm saying? I don't deny. I don't whatever those words would be. As I told you, I don't know many words.
You just
but
got
I have
diction.
good diction. But the point about the Griffin twins, there'd be nights that UCF would lose, and I'm the sideline reporter, and I do the post game from the locker room. And if you remember UCF for, I think, 14 years, George O'Leary was the head coach.
Yes.
George O'Leary was the head coach at Georgia Tech, and then he became the head coach at Notre Dame.
For about a week.
Until they found out that
for about a week.
Or less.
Maybe less.
And they found out that he cheated on his resume, and he said that he was this or that. But in reality, and I love George O'Leary, but George O'Leary was a prick. Okay? And so it's my total belief, and I know Notre Dame people, once George O'Leary was found out to have, added to his resume that was there for years, they met George O'Leary for 4 or 5 days. They were not going to defend George O'Leary because he was a prick. Okay? If George O'Leary was a guy that everybody liked the first 4 or 5 days at Notre Dame, they would have had his back.
Yeah.
They didn't have his back because they saw who he was. And then after that, he couldn't find a job, and he ended up being the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings.
Yep, I remember.
Because there was a guy, I forget his name, who became the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, who worked for George O'Leary. Huh?
Mike Tice.
Yes. Tice worked for George O'Leary. I believe it was at Georgia Tech. Okay. So Tice was there, and when O'Leary was living on a limb, Tice hired him at Minnesota to be the defensive coordinator. So here he is now, at least he's back in the game. And then O'Leary was hired to be the head coach at UCF. The first year, he went unbeaten.
Probably the only major college coach to have two defeated seasons, right?
No. It wasn't unbeaten. It was winless.
Yes.
That's
first
different.
Coach to have two of those.
Yes, he ran off all the Pirates on the UCF football team, because UCF at that hour, when he became the head coach, had a bunch of Pirates on the team. They ran the ship, and he ran them off. And then they didn't win a game. And then the next year they were bowl eligible. So he was like, wow, look what he has done. But he was a difficult SOB. He was a son of a bitch. And I had to deal with him every post game. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. It was hard. It was like, just get ready to get beat up verbally.
So was he like a Bill Belichick, but for college, you think?
No, worse.
Worse, you think? Yeah.
Worse. I would ask him a question. Coach, talk to me about tonight's game. So he would do an overview of the game in 49 seconds. He would do a complete overview of the game in 49 seconds. Now what am I supposed to do? So I say to him, Coach, you guys turned the ball over 4 times tonight. I already told you that. He would just beat me up verbally. So now we travel with the team, okay? So this is a road loss. So when we get ready to get on the plane, he'd be standing. We're out on the tarmac. We'd have to climb the steps to get on the plane. He'd be standing at the bottom of the stairwell. And he'd go, hey, O'Neal, I was just busting your balls. I go, Coach, I know. I don't know how many times I heard him say that to me. Hey, O'Neal, I was just busting your balls. So at the end of George O'Leary's career, thanks be to God, he was told, I was in the room by the president at UCF, John Hitt, Coach, this is the end. We're going to tell people tonight that this is your last year. He goes, I'm not telling people tonight this is my last year. He goes, I'm out of here if that's the way it's going to be. So that was the end of George O'Leary's career. And we went winless.
14 years?
Yes. And then UCF hired Scott Frost.
Yep.
And it was the difference of day and night. For those who know college football, he's now at Nebraska. Scott Frost was at UCF for 2 years.
Never should have left.
I'm sorry?
I don't think he should have left, but.
He didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, and I'm being honest.
Yeah, give me this, because this is insight. This is good.
Scott Frost was at UCF 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
The first year was to follow a winless season.
Yep.
He got us bowl eligible. It became a change in culture.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about that, but he did it.
Yep.
And he made kids want to play football again, and he made kids enjoy football again. Scott Frost was a great guy. He was a guy you want in your foxhole, soldier.
I believe it.
Trust me. He was a guy that you want in your foxhole. He was a SEAL, okay? That's how good he was. And he could play the game even at that level.
Yeah, Nebraska.
And so that year, UCF was bowl eligible. They lost a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
But the next year, we went – did we go unbeaten the next year?
Yes, we did. It was 2017.
Yes. I'm trying to remember back.
Oh, I remember.
And then at the end of the regular season, his dad was trying to court him back to take the Nebraska job. Mm-hmm. Scott Frost didn't want to go. His first head coaching job was UCF.
Yeah.
He didn't want to leave UCF. That was his baby. In fact, he and his wife had just had a baby.
I remember. Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth. Scott Frost wept when he committed to Nebraska. Not cried, he wept. There's a difference. He fell apart. He didn't want to leave UCF. But he had to because of his father. So he had to go back. You know, we prayed that Nebraska would be good so that Scott Frost wouldn't have to leave UCF. He didn't want to leave UCF. But he then left. He committed to Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he came back and coached UCF, and that coaching staff
for that
did.
bowl game.
That whole coaching staff left to go to Nebraska. Every one of them. He hired every one of them to go to Nebraska. But he came back and coached, and UCF beat Auburn, and that was the year that we ended up getting this guy, the ring.
There it is.
And then
well, so let me stay on Scott Frost, because you say why do you what did his dad have to do with it? Well,
his dad wanted Scott Frost was the quarterback at Nebraska the last time Nebraska was great. When Tommy Frazier. No, not Tommy Frazier.
Oh, you're talking about Tom Osborne. I thought you meant the quarterback. Yeah, Tom Osborne. Yeah.
Tom Osborne was the head coach.
Yeah.
And Scott Frost was the quarterback that led them to a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Tommy Frazier did as well.
But
Scott, in fact, they beat Florida up, if you remember right.
I do.
So Scott Frost was the quarterback that led them to a national championship. So Tom Osborne wanted Scott Frost, and Scott Frost's dad wanted him to come back and take Nebraska to great heights. Scott Frost didn't want to do that. He wanted to stay at UCF. He knew he had a good thing at UCF. He could
recruit.
He could get. He could
better
recruit.
Players. Absolutely.
See, it's the whiskey. It's the whiskey.
No,
you see how empty this is? It's the whiskey.
Hey, look, pick a bottle, man. You can have whatever you want. Just, hey, do me a favor. Leave the ice out of it this time. What are you doing, Jerry? What are you doing? Why are we putting ice? What are you, a Scotch drinker? You don't put ice in bourbon.
No.
Never mind.
I had ice in my whiskey. All right.
You know what? You can drink it however you want. Yeah, go ahead.
Scott Frost, it's gone. Scott Frost wanted to stay at UCF. That was his first head coaching job. He had an unbeaten team. In 2 years, he went from winless to unbeaten. We're playing the likes of, Auburn. We're going toe-to-toe with teams that beat Georgia and Alabama. He didn't want to leave that. How good is that? And the other thing is, he's recruiting kids, freshman kids, who are playing. He's winning recruits who could have gone to Florida. They could have gone to Florida State. They could have gone to Bama. They're coming to UCF because they get an opportunity to play right away. Mm-hmm. And he loves that. And we are scoring 50 points a game in college football. Mm-hmm. What's not to like? And those kids love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And they had a defense. And so it wasn't all one-sided. Yeah, it wasn't one-sided.
They got better on that side of the ball.
You just named the really Griffin brothers. I mean, those are products of the Scott Frost era. Yeah.
They were getting great athletes. And, when your offense is scoring 9 plays, 73 yards in a minute and 19 seconds.
That's rough.
Defense got to go play football.
Yeah, that is rough.
But, when we got called out by schools that didn't think that we were capable, and then we went toe-to-toe, even when O'Leary was the coach and Blake Bortles was the quarterback, people thought, well, we can't go out and play with Baylor out in the desert. Really? We were the biggest underdog. We were the laughing stock.
17 points. 17-point underdog.
Right.
17 points.
And I said, as the sideline reporter, I said, you got it right. 17 points was the difference. Of course, UCF was beating Baylor by that score.
I was in Afghanistan for that. I got up at 4 a.m. to watch that game in Afghanistan, and it was snowing. I remember it was snowing in Afghanistan outside the little room I was in watching the game, and that was probably my favorite game I ever watched.
See, here's the other thing. UCF won 25 games in a row, and in the 24th game, Mackenzie Milton, who was the quarterback of UCF, he would finish 6th and 8th in the Heisman Trophy balloting, had such an incredible knee injury that the night of the UCF-USF game, he almost had his leg amputated.
That's mind-blowing.
And I was there. I was there within 5 feet of Mackenzie Milton when he laid there. And he was in such shock. And, Eric, I'll be honest with you. It probably was like a war injury.
Oh, it had to be. For it to be that life, that's fucking –
Where in this case, the athlete versus the
total shock. Yeah.
Would be in such shock. Yeah. You're not in pain. Nope. You're just in shock. Mm-hmm. And you don't know real from unreal. And so where your buddies are carrying you to a helicopter to try to save your life, and they know that you have an opportunity to survive, the same thing with this kid. And so he wasn't in pain. He was just in shock.
Yep.
So he's being carted away. And I had tears rolling down my cheeks because I know how much he meant to UCF, not just as an athlete, but as a leader. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
On the field of combat, our combat was football. And so he's being carted away, and now you're bringing on this athlete who hasn't had any experience. And now we went on to win that game against USF in Tampa, in the place where the Tampa Bay Bucks play, that same stadium. And now we go on to play USF, not USF.
Well, no, LSU.
Go to play Memphis.
Right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Memphis is the team that can go score 50 points in a game like we can.
Yep.
We had one of the most wild college football games in 2 years running with them in the conference championship game. And we went out and won that game. So now without Mackenzie Milton. We got to go play LSU in the desert. We go play in, what's the stadium out there? I forget. It's only because of the liquor.
I mean, it's in Arizona, obviously.
Tempe. No, it's not Tempe.
It's in Tempe.
No.
Glendale. Yeah, the Fiesta Bowl, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're playing there. That's where Blake Bortles beat Baylor. So now we're going back out there. UCF had a 10-point lead.
I thought they knocked Joe Burrow out for a second.
Correct.
I thought.
Correct. For those who remember that game, Joe Burrow looked like he was dead on the field.
He did. I think, unfortunately, you know what I think that hit did? I think it made him who he is today.
Correct.
I think we turned the light on that man.
We picked him off. We picked him off and returned a score for a touchdown. Yep. We have a 10-point lead. We have just sacked him on another play. We have a 10-point lead. We totally are dominating the opening quarter against LSU. They have, by the way, not lost since. But,
nope.
But what happened
was
Burrow was sacked on a third down right after we picked him off and returned for a touchdown. We sack him on a third down. The entire stadium there at Glendale is UCF oriented. LSU has a ton of fans, but everybody who's not an LSU fan is a UCF fan. Mm-hmm. We have won them over. So we have sacked Joe Burrow. We have a 10-point lead. And the guy who sacked Joe Burrow thought that Burrow fumbled the ball and that he recovered the fumble. And the referee called the ball dead, and it was dead. He picked up the football and fired it into the ground.
Flag.
And they call a personal foul.
That was it.
15-yard penalty. Joe Burrow comes back on the field with stitches or Band-Aids in his chin.
Yeah.
He leads them to a touchdown. They get us a 3-and-out, and they start to dominate the game. We got a touchdown in the final minute of the half.
Yep.
But they were the better team.
Oh, yeah.
But,
they better be.
Once you have – it's like a boxer. You got him on the ropes.
Yep. You got to finish him, and you can't make stupid plays or stupid penalties.
Knocking him out.
Yep.
And that penalty was a game changer.
Yeah. Well, football more than anything. I think football more than anything, talent eventually wins out, right? And that's what that was. LSU was the more talented team, but UCF had its shot and they blew it.
Yes.
Because of the penalty.
And we had a 10-point lead with the ball, and they had not stopped us to that point. If we go put more points on the board.
And that's with the backup quarterback who played. That was like, what, his fourth game ever?
No, it was less than that.
Yeah, it's like, third game ever. Second start, third game ever.
Correct. And he was a redshirt guy.
Yep. So and then he's not even the quarterback today. That's what's even more amazing. Like it's Gabriel or what? Gilbert Gabriel? Correct.
Yeah, he couldn't even win the job next year.
He's just a great athlete, but he's just not a quarterback.
He was, but against athletes like what LSU had.
Yeah.
But we were track stars. We had track stars at every wideout position. We had track stars at every running back position, and we were unique. We were really unique to college football.
I love it. I think that team was – I think I like that team better than the one the year prior. I really do. I like that team better. And if Milton didn't get hurt, there's no chance – there's no doubt in my mind they would have blew the doors off of LSU.
Well, I believe we would have won that game. I'm convinced of it.
Even falling behind because he's Milton – whatever you say about it, Mackenzie Milton had that. Like that guy was the guy that no one was going to be like, never feel like they're out of the – he's like Tom Brady in a sense that you never feel like you're out of the game.
I stood with Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton. There were three of us, Scott Frost, Mackenzie Milton, and me in the big house at Michigan. And Mackenzie Milton did not play in that game. And Scott Frost walked off the field. Mackenzie Milton at the big house in Michigan had tears in his eyes because he wasn't playing. And Scott Frost said to him, "You will win Conference Player of the Year on my watch." And I think he was saying that because he felt Milton might leave UCF. There were moments where Mackenzie Milton thought about leaving UCF early in his career. Because as a freshman at UCF, Mackenzie Milton was booed off the field because the offense was so bad. Mackenzie Milton was so new to the game of college football that he would take snaps in the Scott Frost offense and the line would let him down, where he'd be running around trying to save his own neck.
Yep.
And the offense was being booed off the field his freshman year. That was the year where they went from winless to bowl eligible. It was the next year that they became really great. So it was unbelievable to be a part of the UCF experience all those years, especially, during those years that UCF was the only team unbeaten in college football. It's tremendous.
Do you think Milton's going to play again?
I do. I really do.
Who's he going to play for?
Well, I think it's UCF.
Really?
But, 2020 now is up in the air. 2020 is totally up in the air as far as – and UCF had a schedule that had them playing, I think, North Carolina or Georgia Tech or both. And now that's not.
I know they were
happen.
playing. Yeah, they were playing both, Carolina and Georgia Tech. 2 wins.
I don't think either. The ACC has talked about playing only conference opponents, and Notre Dame being in that mix. So 2020 is up in the air as you and I sit here and talk tonight.
Well, I think they play. I think they play this year. Because, I mean, look at the Southeast. The SEC is definitely playing. The Pac-12 just agreed to a 10-game schedule. I think they're going to play. We're just not going to get those out-of-conference games. And do we really need to see Alabama beat up on the Citadel?
Well, when you say that, they've made their decisions, you're right, on conference-only games. But I honestly believe, COVID-19 ain't going away. And we've seen it even in the bubble in basketball, and we've seen it in some of the training in baseball, preparing. College football, they have bubbles amongst athletes, but when kids come back to school, is that the way it's going to remain? I don't know. I'm honestly not convinced that we're going to play college football in 2020.
Well, the only thing comparable is we are playing baseball, and those are 30-man rosters right now, so that's about
True.
half. Yeah, so I'll give that. And the UFC goes on every week.
That's pay sports. That's pro sports.
Yeah, college has got some big money in it.
Yeah, I know, and big money to lose. They need college football. Colleges need college football.
Oh yeah.
So I hope it's played, but I'm not convinced of it yet.
So what? So here's a good point. You know who Bill Maher is?
Of course.
Okay. So he made a good point the other day on Twitter. He's like, so we can, he was talking about baseball star, and he's like, so let me get this straight. We can fly in an aluminum box, essentially sitting next to each other on a 3-4 hour flight, but we can't go to a baseball game and sit in the stands and watch.
Right.
Is that really, it's true. It's funny, but it's true. It's like, cause I'm sitting here watching, like I said, I'm watching all these Giants games playing in Dodger Stadium, and the Dodgers are using these, cardboard cutouts of season ticket holders. And
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're trying to tell me that,
by the way, my twin brother, Terry, was a cardboard cutout at the White Sox games.
Really?
Yes.
Well, so you bring up Chicago. So I don't know if this is going to happen yet or not. So I bought, before all this took place, when NFL individual tickets went on sale back in May, I bought tickets for my dad and I to go to the Chicago Bears Tampa Bay Bucks game week 5 on a Thursday night in Chicago at Soldier Field.
Wow.
And I went last year for the first time when the Bears, if you don't remember, I'm a Bears fan, but I went last year on a Thursday night to Chicago to Soldier Field for the first time when they played the Cowboys.
Okay.
And Mitch Trubisky finally looked like a number 2 pick and beat the brakes off of Dallas. And I loved it because I hate the Cowboys. I know you're, rest in peace to your son, and he's a Cowboys fan, but that was a great night for me.
Thank you.
It was a great night for me, though.
I'm sure.
So my dad, he's a Bears fan as well, never been to Chicago. So I got us tickets to go to that, and I'm still waiting to find out if we're going to actually be able to attend. Because some teams have said no fans. Some have said you can have fans a little bit.
That's Tom Brady coming to town.
I'm loving it. I can't wait. That
hurts, though.
How do you feel? How do you think he's going to do? You think Tampa's going to be?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, he can't throw 30 interceptions like Jameis Winston, right? So we know that. No. That's not going to happen.
Now, forgive me, and it may be the whiskey talking.
Let
Who's
it
the Tampa
flow.
Bay Bucks coach?
It's
You know, he's a great coach. And
I know.
forgive me, audience. As a
No, we're gonna
sports
get
talk
this.
show host, I should be ashamed. Huh?
It's Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I say it's the whiskey talking, I'm serious. So here's the thing. He's going to but it hurts me to think when athletes leave franchises where they have been as
Yeah.
great as him. You know, when O.J. Simpson left Buffalo, when
Yep.
Joe Montana left the 49ers, you know, there have been a number of guys who have left. I'm a Hank Aaron guy. When Hank Aaron left the Atlanta Braves
Yeah.
to go back to Milwaukee, it burned me, you know. I wish guys could play their entire career. When Brett Favre left the Packers, for God's sakes.
Yeah, the Jets,
you know, that
and the
hurt.
Vikings. Yeah, that's.
He went to the Jets, I think, first, didn't he?
Jets
before
first,
the Vikings?
for a year.
But you know, I'd rather see athletes stay at one place. But it will be interesting to see how Brady performs, you know, for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
I would just love to see that. I just want to be able to go to that game though, because I've never seen Tom Brady play in person. You know, I mean, like the Bears usually never play the Patriots, and when they do, it's, you know.
I'm a Packer guy, by the way.
Are you? I never knew you were a Packers fan. Really?
From birth. Now, look.
Wow. Okay, I never knew that. So, what do you think about? What do you think about this?
Here's the truth. Here's the truth. My best friends will always recognize that I've got 15 favorite teams. Okay, the Packers from Bart Starr days.
Okay.
From Super Bowls 1 and 2 have been my favorite team. Now, let's be honest. They went into a free fall for many years, and so I was also an Oakland fan, but I dropped Oakland because, I mean, you can't go 3-13 and make me a fan forever. At some point, it's like, you know what, or get off the pot. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, get back on top, get back to competitive, or I'm out of here, dog. So I have not been an Oakland fan.
Well, now it's a Vegas fan, so you can like the Vegas Raiders.
Well, I'm a John Gruden guy. I like John Gruden.
Okay, that's fair.
But I would like to see them have success. But on the other hand, being a UCF sideline reporter, you know, I've also been a UCF guy. So where Brandon Marshall was, I was a fan.
Chicago Bear for 3 years. Loved him.
Huh?
I said he was a Bear for 3 years. I loved him.
That's correct. So, you know, that has played into my that hand. But I've never left Green Bay. I've always been a Green Bay guy.
You know who I thought would have been better in the NFL, going back to Brandon Marshall, was Mike Walker.
Well, Mike Walker got hurt. Mike Walker was a wide receiver for UCF. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for those who don't even know UCF, it's odd. But when George O'Leary was the head coach at UCF, Mike Walker, who would become a receiver and was drafted, wasn't it Jacksonville?
Jacksonville, yeah.
No, Jacksonville for a few years. He was always hurt. He tore up a knee ligament even at UCF, and he was hurt and then missed a couple years at Jacksonville. But he and Brandon Marshall,
they were unstoppable.
They were both
Brandon Marshall played safety.
Correct. They were both safeties for UCF.
That's nuts.
We had enough receivers. We didn't have any secondary. So O'Leary made Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall led the team in tackles, didn't he?
Correct.
So nuts.
And I think
that's a big boy, though. He's a big boy. Brandon Marshall's a big man.
Interceptions as well.
Yeah. Brandon Marshall's a big man, so I can see it.
But who was the guy you brought up?
Mike Walker?
Yes, Mike Walker. In the NFL, it became Mike Sims Walker.
Yes, it did.
He had more talent, most believe, than Brandon Marshall.
340. Yeah. Oh, he was the better receiver by far. Yeah.
But
I think he was
because of the knee injury.
Yeah. Brandon Marshall, I remember. I still remember when he was drafted because I remember I wanted the Bears to draft him. The Bears never have receivers. They finally got Allen Robinson. You know, they finally got a decent receiver. Now I still don't have a fucking quarterback. But I remember when he came out, I was like, the Bears have to draft Brandon Marshall. Like the second, third round, I was surprised that he slid as far as he did.
Right.
But when he was blessed because he went to Denver, and Denver that year also drafted Jay Cutler. So those two just from the start.
Sure.
were
Sure.
once Cutler finally got on the field, they were an instant connection, and then they kind of rekindled that for a little bit in Chicago. But whatever. The stuff with Jay Cutler is
UCF's first bowl game was in Hawaii. We played the Hawaii Bowl in 2010, I think it was.
Was this the 49-42 game or something like that?
Yeah.
Or
against
it was
Nevada.
1 point. They won by Nevada missed an extra point, right?
No.
Oh, no.
We
Okay.
did.
Oh, okay. Okay. I remember
Listen,
this game. Yeah.
Now this is really the whiskey talking. Who's the longtime kicker of the Detroit Lions?
Mike Nugent. No, Mike Nugent. He was Ohio State. I know this. Come on. No, I know exactly who you're talking about.
He's a UCF kicker.
I know who he is. I gotta look this up.
Forgive me, Lord.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Was the UCF place kicker.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And he was tremendous.
No, I know exactly who you're talking about because he's kicked forever. He was on the freaking Broncos.
Not only kicked forever, but has those longest 50-plus yard field goals.
Was it Matt something?
Matt Prater.
Matt Prater. There we go. Yeah.
Matt Prater.
Prater. Yeah, great kicker.
Matt Prater is the UCF kicker.
Yep.
Okay. We are very
UCF has put out some players. I want everyone to know that.
Asante Samuel, by the way, went to UCF. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Josh Sitton, who was one of the great offensive linemen, guards for the Packers.
Played for the Packers, Then he went to the Bears.
Played for the Bears. Okay, so Matt Prater is the place kicker for UCF. He is automatic.
Yep.
UCF is playing in his first bowl game. Now, I come home to my wife, Annie. Christmas means a lot to us, okay? And I said, honey, UCF has been invited to its first bowl game. This is a true story. And she said, really? That's tremendous. What bowl game is it? I said, it's the Aloha Bowl. She goes, Aloha Bowl? Is that in Hawaii? I go, yep. She goes, you're going to Hawaii? Now, UCF in 1995, the first year that I was involved with the UCF broadcast as the sideline reporter, was 1995. UCF played Hawaii in Hawaii. We went over there on a Wednesday. We had nothing to do until Saturday night. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all day Saturday. We didn't go home till Sunday night. The broadcast team, all we did was scour Oahu and play wiffle ball.
Wiffle ball?
We would play 9-inning wiffle ball games.
What the hell?
We would find places where the ocean is a home run. If you hit the ball into the ocean, it's a home run. If you caught a ball in the ocean, it's an out. So if a guy hit a wiffle ball, home run, but if you dove out into the ocean. Yeah, you can
dive out there. You get dirty. I got it.
He's out. It was unbelievable. So we play Hawaii in 95. We go back in 2010 with our first bowl game. But I come home and I tell my wife, Annie, we have our first bowl game. Where is it? Hawaii. She goes, do I get to go? I go, no, honey, you don't.
No, honey, you don't.
She goes, when is it? And I said the following words, Christmas Eve.
Ooh.
Her next 3 words are, you're not going. I said, Annie.
I'm the sideline reporter. I have to go.
My next 3 words are, it's my job.
It's my job. Yes, I am. Another 3 words.
She said, you're not going. I said, yes, I am. It's my job.
That's so good.
So I got to go, obviously. So we go over, we play a wild, wild game against Nevada, up and down the field. Brandon Marshall, go look at his stats. They're incredible. It's like 10 catches, 240, 2 touchdowns. We get to overtime.
Was Kaepernick the quarterback?
Who?
Was Kaepernick the quarterback?
No.
Colin Kaepernick? No?
No.
Okay.
I forget who the quarterback was. It wasn't Kaepernick.
Yeah, I got to look that up. But keep going.
So they score first in overtime. We score in overtime. Now all we need is the extra point to go to a second overtime.
Yep.
And Matt Prater wide rights it. I'm standing as the sideline reporter underneath the goalposts. 90 minutes later, we are on a plane going home.
40,
It's like, holy God.
2005
kidding
Hawaii
me.
Bowl. 2005.
You are good from 50 yards. You could make everything inside 50 yards, and you just shanked an extra point, and we're going home?
49-48. Unbelievable. Damn. Yeah,
So
2005 Hawaii Aloha Bowl.
Yes.
Kevin Smith was there. That's right. 2005.
Oh, my God. He had a wild game.
Yep.
What year was that?
2005.
What? Was it? I thought it was 2010, but I was
Hey,
wrong.
you've been retired a while. It's all right.
Yeah, true. But I was there.
Yeah,
and I was under the goalpost. I was under the goalpost when that happened. Our first game in 2014, UCF's first game in 2014. We have played in the 2013 Fiesta Bowl on January 1st, 2014. Okay, so we have won. We have beaten Baylor. We were this huge underdog. We don't belong. They will roll us out of the Fiesta Bowl, and we ass-kicked them, okay? And Blake Bortles was the MVP. It was tremendous. We really did. It's like, take that, bitch. So now, the first game of 2014, we are invited to play in Ireland.
Yeah, I remember this.
It's Coach O'Brien from Penn State and Coach O'Leary from UCF, except Coach O'Brien has taken the head job of the Houston Texans. For those who have noticed, periodically during this broadcast, I am wearing a Houston Texans jersey, not jersey, but polo. How did I come in contact with that? Okay. Now I'm going to forget his name. Pat O'Hara. Pat O'Hara was a one-time quarterback of USC.
Yep.
Pat O'Hara then got into the Arena League, and he was a head coach and general manager of the Orlando franchise in the Arena League. And then I think that disbanded or something, went crazy, went sideways.
There's like 4 teams left. Yeah.
Pat O'Hara became the color analyst for UCF. And he was the color analyst for UCF for a couple of years. And Pat and we roomed together on the road. I love the guy. He's a great guy. So he became the quarterback coach of the Houston Texans. George Godsey was a one-time quarterback coach, I think, for UCF. And then Godsey got a job in the NFL and became an assistant coach, whatever his role was. I don't remember. Might have been quarterback coach or offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. And he and Pat O'Hara became friends. And then they hired O'Hara to come to the Houston Texans as a quarterback coach. And when Pat O'Hara was the quarterback coach of the Houston Texans, we obviously had a different color analyst at UCF, but we played Houston. Houston was in not Conference USA, but the American Athletic Conference. Yep. We went to Houston, and on Friday night before the game, we had dinner with Pat O'Hara, and he gave everybody one of these.
That's legit.
A polo.
Look at that.
From the Houston Texans. Now Pat O'Hara is the quarterback coach of the Tennessee Titans, where Ryan Tannehill is there.
Yeah,
and has resurrected his career.
Houston has the quarterback that I wanted my Bears to draft.
Who's that?
Deshaun Watson.
Really?
Instead, they moved up and drafted. Look, I love Mitch Trubisky. I believe in the kid, but I remember on draft night, I was like, we moved up one spot to do that? That's what we did?
Yeah, right.
All right, but before I could go on a rant on that, but I wanted to get your take on this because this was like, we talked about that Aloha Bowl. Kevin Smith, remember him, the running back for UCF? That game?
What do you mean?
200 and some yards, 3 touchdowns that game? Now look, this was the year for Conference USA running backs, right?
Yeah.
Because not one, not 2, 3 guys went over 2,000 yards. D'Angelo Williams.
Is that amazing?
Yes. D'Angelo Williams, Matt Forte, who the Bears drafted, and I wanted Kevin Smith,
right.
But I think it worked out for the Bears. Matt Forte had the better pro career. And then Kevin Smith. All 3 of these guys went over 2,000 yards that season. And I remember I called your show during this, and I said – it was me talking about how I didn't think D'Angelo Williams was that good. And you were like, are you high? And you hung up on me. I remember that.
What was interesting about D'Angelo Williams,
Yeah.
Memphis, he played for
He was
Memphis.
the first round pick. Forte went second round. Kevin Smith went third round in that
The
NFL draft.
the first play of the season for UCF that year, the first play, we had a road game at North Carolina State. They kicked the ball out of the end zone. We handed the ball off to Kevin Smith, and untouched 80 yards later, it's 7-0 Knights. And we held on to win that game. And so, but he went 80 yards untouched with the first play of the season. Every night, not every night, from midpoint of the season to the rest of the year, when you fly with a college football team, and our broadcast team did, we flew with UCF's football team. We would walk out on the tarmac. You don't go through the airport. We would walk out on the tarmac, walk up the plane steps, and get on the plane. Kevin Smith would turn around to me and ask me how the other two guys did. He would ask me, how did the other guys do?
Well, then the other guy, remember the other one in that conference? Chris Johnson, same thing.
Chris Johnson is from Orlando.
Exactly. 4 guys that year in that conference.
High school football in Orlando.
Yeah.
I think Chris Johnson's in prison now, if I remember.
I believe he is, yes. Unfortunately for Chris. Sorry.
Whatever.
Chris, whatever.
But we played. Chris Johnson was a great college football player at East Carolina.
Yep.
And we played East Carolina that year.
Yep.
And George O'Leary was the head coach. And we made the mistake. We were ass kicking them too. And we made the mistake of kicking off the second half to Chris Johnson. And he went 95 yards. And we turned the ball over 5 consecutive possessions in the second half. And they turned a huge deficit into roll us. They rolled us in the second half. And I asked O'Leary in the postgame, number 5's pretty good. That's Chris Johnson.
Number 5's pretty good.
He said, why are you bringing him up? Why are you bringing him up? Why am I bringing him up? All he did was dot the I.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're the best player on the field that day. That's probably why, Coach.
No kidding. How did you miss on him, O'Leary?
Yeah. You know what?
Because
look, so I mean, you say all that, and you've seen all this, which is even better. But, and I don't really care. But if anyone out there on ESPN who makes 30 for 30 films is listening, I would love to see a 30 for 30 on those 4 guys from Conference USA, because those 4 running backs, D'Angelo Williams, Matt Forte, Kevin Smith, Chris Johnson, I believe, and I may be wrong, but I do believe all 4 of them went for 2,000 yards. And they all were there at the same time. Like, this wasn't like, oh, one guy was there and then the other. Like, this all happened in the same conference.
D'Angelo Williams from Memphis in the UCF game against Memphis that year was in Orlando. Now, as the sideline reporter, I have the best seat in the house, and I never sit down. So I travel with the football. Yeah. But D'Angelo Williams made a play late in the first half, and UCF in the years with UCF and Memphis in Conference USA, UCF went 8-0 against Memphis. UCF went 8-0 against Marshall. They were tremendous games. Many were very close, but UCF won every game.
Yeah,
so Memphis, D'Angelo Williams, it was a hot, humid night in Orlando. And he took a handoff, and he ran left, and that shut down. So he reversed track, and now goes the other way, comes all the way back across the field, goes 80 yards for a touchdown with a minute to go in the first half. And he's not seen the rest of the night. They said for most of the rest of the night, he's got an IV stuck in his arm, and he is dehydrated.
I believe
he never came back to the field. And as I've said 2 or 3 times tonight, we ass kicked them.
But that's what I mean. Like, stuff like that, I think if it happened today, we'd get way more attention. This was, the mid 2000s, right? So,
Eric, let me tell you something though. When you travel with a college football team, we travel on Friday for the game on Saturday. There is no more joy on the planet than winning a road game. When you win a road game and you have spent a weekend at somebody else's house and you go into that locker room like I had access, and there is incredible joy. And then you take all of that energy, and you put it on a plane and you shut it up, and then you fly a couple thousand miles. There is incredible joy confined in that Airbus. Some of the greatest memories in my life away from my wife are with 18, 19, and 20-year-old guys who, if you don't mind, this is so funny. This is so funny. We were playing in that 2013 year. If you go back and ever look at the 2013 UCF football season, we end up the year upsetting Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. We lost one game. We lost to Steve Spurrier's South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, I remember. I watched that in Afghanistan as well. That was one touchdown, wasn't it? Or not even field goal.
We should have had 30 points in the first half.
Yep.
We left points on the field in the first half.
Remember that game.
And then there's a running back. I think his last name was Davis. And he's had some good games in the NFL. If I remember right, his last name is Davis. He was the difference maker in the second half, and they rallied and beat us. We knocked their quarterback out in the first half. We had those guys beat. If we'd have put the points on the board, we should have in the first half. We'd have ended up that year unbeaten. But we end up the year beating Baylor in the bowl game out in the Fiesta Bowl. And there, like I said, there is no more joy than winning road games. And you talk about a party that night, in winning road games in especially bowl games like that. My mind was wandered. I've forgotten exactly how I was going to end this little phrase.
It doesn't matter. That's how whiskey rolls. It takes you wherever it has to take you. But you're talking about how some of the best games you were a part of were with, 19, 20, 21-year-old men coming back from those.
Oh,
those
I know
road
what I
trips.
was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and my apologies for losing it there. That's my whiskey guy.
I do it all the time.
Okay, so I'm serious. We end up winning that year's Fiesta Bowl, and I finished sixth in the country. We could have finished that year in the conference under 500. We were the Cardiac Knights. It was the 2013 season.
Yep.
There were 6 games that year. We should have lost. We should have lost 6 games. We're playing in Memphis. We need a 4th and 12 conversion, or they will take a knee. And it was Blake Bortles. What was the kid's name? His dad played in the NFL as well.
McCaffrey. Wait, no.
He's a wideout. We need a 4th and 12 conversion. He's now come back into the NFL.
You're talking about
Parlamy.
Pritchard.
No.
Perryman.
Perryman.
Yeah, Perryman.
God forgive me.
God, I wish that.
Okay.
God,
UCF fans, forgive me.
Bernard Perryman.
Perryman's name.
Yep, Bernard.
We need a 4th and 12. If we don't convert a 4th and 12, they take a knee. We convert it. We end up getting down the field. And we're down around the goal line. And a kid named Johnson, if I remember right, the running back, his real nickname is Fumbles. He fumbles everything. We fumble the ball at the friggin' goal line into the end zone, but the tight end or the offensive lineman recovers it for a touchdown. That's the game-tying touchdown. There's about a minute to go in the game. Who's the quarterback from Memphis that got hurt so bad? He's still in the NFL.
Braxton.
No.
The guy that was the first round pick.
He played at Minnesota. He got hurt so bad. So he's the quarterback of Memphis. Okay. He's now back in the NFL and he's doing great. So
Paxton Lynch.
Huh?
Paxton Lynch?
No. He's later.
Before him. Yeah. I don't know them.
Black quarterback who tore up his knee for the Vikings.
Tavares Jackson. Jackson.
No.
Not even him? Damn.
No. So here's the story, though. UCF has converted the 4th and 12. We fumbled the ball in the end zone, converted by lineman covering it, Chris Martin. Mm-hmm. So we tied the game. We now got to kick off to Memphis. We kicked the ball off to Memphis. I'm thinking of another quarterback. The quarterback that I'm thinking of actually played for Louisville. My bad.
Oh.
So we kicked the ball off to Memphis. We tackled the guy who's running the kickback. The ball squirts out of his arms. a defensive back covers it and walks in for a touchdown. We've scored 2 touchdowns in 9 seconds, and we win that game in Memphis. We actually intercept the pass in the end zone. Who's the guy that played at Louisville?
The quarterback?
That game, we should lose that game by 4 touchdowns, and we rally and win that game, and they have a Hail Mary on the final play of the game. He's a black quarterback, played for the Vikings. He has since left the
No, the only one I even remember is Lamar Jackson. That's the only one I remember.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson played at Louisville, but prior to him.
Okay, well, we can find that. I can effort this as you continue to bless us with story time.
I'm just saying, we had a game in Philadelphia against Temple.
I remember that.
We are dead in the water. Yep. We are dead in the water that year in 2013.
Was it Jawan Pass?
No. He's an NFL quarterback today. Webb. No.
I don't know, Jerry.
Highlight. Google former Louisville quarterbacks or former Viking quarterbacks. He's a guy who, during a spring prior to even preseason, tore up his knee so bad that he had to miss multiple seasons in the NFL within the last 5-10 years. Because I'm talking about the 2013 season at Louisville. Anyway, UCF is
Teddy Bridgewater did that, but Teddy Bridgewater did. There we go. Teddy Bridgewater. Yeah. Okay. That's
what I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Now
Bridgewater was a quarterback at Louisville.
Yeah.
UCF is dead in the water at Temple in Philadelphia, at where the Eagles play.
Yep. Lincoln Field.
We need a miracle to get to overtime. And Blake Bortles rolls out. He's about to be crushed by 3 linemen. And as he's off balance, heaves the ball to the 30 yards to the end zone. And it's caught by a receiver whose name escapes me. He will win an ESPY for that play.
I know what you're talking about.
He will win an ESPY for that catch.
I know exactly who you're talking about because my friend dated this guy.
We kick off to Temple. We get the ball back. We're going to take a knee to go to overtime. But O'Leary says,
J.J. Wharton. J.J. Wharton.
J.J. Wharton. O'Leary says, fuck that. We're not going to take a knee. We're going to throw the ball 60 yards. So Blake Bortles rolls out with about 9 seconds to go in the game instead of taking a knee. And he throws the ball as far as he can. And it's caught in stride. And we go down and we clock the ball at about the 3-yard line. Here's a game we should lose. We should lose this game and go home embarrassed. We have scored a touchdown on a Blake Bortles play that will win an ESPY in the spring. And then we clock the ball after O'Leary says, fuck that, we ain't taking a knee. He throws a 60-yard pass, and one of our wideouts catches it in stride. We clock the ball with 3 seconds to go. We kick the field goal. We walk off. And we are going home. We are going home. ESPN is showing the highlights of our game. We are in the airplane watching the highlights. We have a road win, so there is this incredible aura in this plane. Every person, including me, is acting like a child. It's the same hour. They are showing our highlights, the same hour that Auburn has a play that becomes the play of the year. J.J. Wharton has the play of the year for an hour until Auburn has a play where 2 Georgia defenders bat the ball in the air, and the Auburn player catches it in stride and walks in for a game-winning touchdown. We win an ESPY on our play instead of it being the play of the year. An hour after our play of the year, Auburn has a play of the year. Do you remember that?
I do. Absolutely.
So here we are celebrating what we believe will be the greatest play of the year. And then in the plane on the way home, we watched the play of the year. Pretty incredible.
So here's a good story. So I was in Afghanistan during that season and when that was happening. And I was I was a part of a 2-star command at the time. So a 2-star level general command. And we had to sit in weekly briefings for the IJC commander, which at the time was Lieutenant General Milley, who is now the Joint Chief of Staff, General Milley, in this current administration.
Very cool.
Yeah, great guy. But I still remember this story. So we are in our TOC, right? The big tactical operations cell, whatever, command center, whatever. Monitors everywhere. We're watching literally everything that goes on in the country of Afghanistan. And then we would do a VTC, a virtual teleconference into General Milley's, his meeting from across the street at the embassy in Kabul, where he was at to do his briefing. And I remember this briefing that was going on. It was the year Florida State won the national championship, right? So we're doing this briefing, and we have
Jameis Winston.
Yeah, in the far left corner. You got to remember, so I was a reserve member from a unit in Orlando that went there. So most of the guys in this unit in this conference are from Florida. So a lot of them are Florida State fans, right?
Sure.
So we got our briefing, General Milley's talking, and one of the guys that just did the briefing for their section, and up in the far left corner is the Florida State national championship game, and they had just scored, and he forgot.
By the way, that night I am in New Orleans. We are not at the Superdome. That's against Virginia Tech. Mm-hmm. We were there all week broadcasting live, but we didn't have enough. We weren't ticketed for the game, so we had to watch it from outside the stadium. Go ahead.
And so he gives his section brief or whatever, and he forgets to turn off his microphone as Florida State scores like the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. And everyone in this room, so there's probably about 80 or 85 of us in this room, most of them are Florida State fans. So about half the room is just going nuts. And so there's General Milley there as a 3-star. His deputy commander is this 2-star from France. And they're all listening to this brief going on, and they hear in the background of all these dudes just going nuts because someone left their microphone on. And General Milley's talking, and he, without missing a beat, he just looks up and he's like, "I guess Florida State just scored." And then he just keeps going. Like, you were expecting this guy, like the 3-star commander of fucking Afghanistan at the moment. He's just like, could have been an opportunity for him to be like, hey, to be a dick and just, blast someone. But right. he got it, and that's what I've always loved about. Yeah, he's just, he's a get it guy. He's from New England. He was.
That was Virginia Tech, right? Did they beat?
Was it them or Clemson? Wasn't Clemson Florida State National? Let's get this.
Because I'm trying to think back to that time as well. It couldn't have been Clemson.
Oh, it was Auburn.
It was
Auburn. It was Auburn.
Was that? Hold on.
Auburn. Yeah, Auburn.
Really?
Yeah, Florida State won 34-31. It was against Auburn.
My bad.
Yeah. But no, and this is what kind of there was many moments throughout that deployment, because like I said, I was in these briefings went on twice a week, so I got to meet him, but I got to obviously interact and deal with General Milley for a lot of times throughout that deployment. But no, I always remember because he was like he went to some school in the Northeast. He always had his Boston Red Sox hat on. He's a
Eric,
big sports fan. So
let me ask you a question. You're stationed over in Iraq, and this is after a point where the United States of America was brought into a war because of 9/11. Mm-hmm. What is that like in a young man's mind? What is that like I don't even know what a company is. What is that like when you're in a foreign land and you have an enemy? I don't know that world.
Well, so if we talk about Iraq, this was 2003. I remember getting, we were in Kuwait, and we were spending more time than I thought we should, to the point where we thought we were going to get sent back to the States. We didn't think we were going to go forward and kind of join the main element.
When was the first war in, because of the Saddam Hussein in Kuwait?
Well, that was 91. That was Gulf War.
Okay.
First one.
Okay.
And then we went in to do Operation Iraqi Freedom, the first version, right. March 19th of 2003.
Okay.
So I remember we were in Kuwait. We were sitting there. We were doing our acclimation, getting used to the climate, the weather, the time, all that stuff before it was time for us to move forward. And I remember finally Captain King, he was my commander at the time, and he finally brought us all together and let us know we were going to go forward. And so I always tell this funny story before we get into the serious stuff that you said is, hey, you guys we're going to get a chance to make your one phone call home. We got satellite phones for everybody to use. And I was like, oh, sweet. So I remember calling my parents, and I called my dad, and I had a ferret at the time. I have a ferret now with my daughter, and I told this story last night how she was smuggled into the state illegally. But anyway, at the time, I remember calling my dad and talk to him, and then I was like, hey, so how's Pookie? Pookie was my ferret's name. I'm like, hey, how's Pook doing? He's like, oh, the ferret? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, your ferret died.
Oh my God.
So I always tell this, and I always remind my dad, I'm like, Dad, I was calling you to tell you that I'm literally we're crossing the berm. We're going into the fucking Iraq war. You didn't have to tell me that my ferret you could have told me later. You could have just been like, oh yeah, the ferret's fine. It's not like I'm going to ask you to put the ferret on the phone, so I could talk to him.
Right.
Right. So I still to this day, it just cracks me up because my dad's like, oh yeah, your ferret's dead. I'm like, what the fuck?
So let me ask though, when you're going to go from Kuwait into Iraq, mm-hmm. How real is that?
I was scared out of my mind. I was 22 years old. So, when you're 22 years old.
How many guys are you with?
We had our company was going forward with 2 others. So there was about a little more than 200 of us catching up to the main element.
What are you traveling in?
I was in a 2-seater Humvee, and it was me and my first sergeant. And my first sergeant had a medical condition that would not have he shouldn't have been there. Let's put it that way, because he had Parkinson's, early stage of Parkinson's. So I remember I was driving, and he was sitting there in the TC, as the TC is, it's a term for tank commander, but essentially he was in the passenger seat. And I remember him falling asleep with his 9mm pistol on his lap, and he's got early stage Parkinson's. So it's like,
how many vehicles are there?
We probably had a little more than 50 in that one.
How many?
A little more than 50.
What do you know going in that direction? What do you know? What are the
I hate to say it, but we didn't know much. Our point at that, our mission at that point was to catch up to the main element, which was probably not going to happen until we got into Baghdad. But we were to expect minor.
How many miles is Baghdad from the Kuwaiti border?
A little more than 300, but it took us about a little more than, I want to say it took about 9.5, 10 hours.
Are there combat issues between?
Well, that's what we were briefed to expect minor resistance, if that's the word for it. We weren't expecting much because the main element had pushed forward, and that was the invasion force of the 3rd Infantry Division and the 1st Marines coming from the other side. So we were expecting a lot of leftovers, if that makes sense. People who kind of hit out and didn't engage the main element, and just kind of
snipers,
the stragglers essentially. Fortunately, not a lot in terms of conflict happened. All of my personal combat experience took place long after the fall of the Saddam era. It all took place during the insurgency when that picked up, which ties back into Paul Bremer and the stuff I mentioned earlier, in his failings as a civilian in charge. But the invasion thing that I went through wasn't that bad. It was everything that came afterwards once the insurgency started. So yeah, 22 years old, I was scared out of my mind. Everybody that I was with, fortunately, I was more scared being in my vehicle just because of the man that was with me, because I was expecting him to shoot me by accident.
Right.
He had Parkinson's and he couldn't stay awake, and we left late at night to travel, obviously at night under the cover of darkness, so to not bring attention to us. I had a lot of moments and a lot of scary situations individually that I always kind of found myself in, but the actual drive into Iraq and to getting into Baghdad wasn't that bad for me. It was worse.
Were you well received as an American soldier?
Yes, absolutely. We were adored. They loved us. I remember I remember this very vividly. One of the first times we got to go out into the city, into the markets in Baghdad, it was probably a week after Saddam was technically and officially removed from power. And literally overnight, you had downtown Baghdad was prohibited from any type of internet service, no satellite TV, none of this stuff. And then like literally it seemed like overnight this stuff popped up. You're in a market where people satellite
isn't
dish,
it true
internet.
isn't it true that Saddam Hussein's leadership of the party was the minority party within Iraq?
No, he was a Sunni. The Sunnis were the main party.
They were.
Yeah. The Shiites were the minority.
The Shiites, though, there were portions.
The Shiites were the majority.
Iraq.
So the Shiites were the minority in Iraq, but they're the majority in Iran, which is why they had their main 8-year war in the 80s.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But there were areas within Iraq that were where what was Saddam's party?
He was the Sunnis, and then
so
the minor parties.
Were there areas?
The north, you had the Kurds.
Yes, of course. But were there areas in the south where Shiites were the majority?
I mean, it's hard to say that they ever were really the majority.
Okay.
The Sunnis controlled that country, and Saddam was obviously the top of the top. Was there potential for them to be in charge somewhere locally? Probably. Iraq's a pretty large country, but they were never a threat to the Sunnis as long as Saddam was in power. It was never going to.
But still, you were received.
Saddam held on to power through power. He was not afraid to use power, and he was very successful at keeping his power. For whatever we want to look back on Saddam, like he rose to power through violence, and he kept his power through violence.
Yeah,
he was very strong.
But yet you were well received as an American soldier.
Oh yeah, the local population loved us initially when we were there. So you got to remember, and this is what I talk about with Paul Bremer, the guy that was put in charge to run the civilian program and the reconstruction efforts. Is the biggest thing that'll always, and to this day, I've had it confirmed from other people way higher than me and way smarter than me. Like the biggest flaw this man did was he disbanded the Iraqi army. So he basically put about 400,000 Iraqi soldiers on unemployment, right? With no way of money ever coming in. And then not only did he disband them, but he told them they were not allowed to be part of the future government or the military going forward. And so what I like to imagine if a country was able to come to the United States, take over here, they disband the United States Army and they say we can't have any role in the future of this country. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? And that's exactly what took place. And that's kind of, if you follow the timeline, it wasn't shortly thereafter, because I was on leave in Orlando, and I remember being in the Orlando airport on November 3rd, going back to Iraq. And my friend, she was shot down in a Chinook helicopter going home on leave. And I remember finding out about that in the airport in Orlando on TV. And I just was just like, well, how the fuck did that happen? And shortly thereafter is kind of the birth of the insurgency. But all that insurgency was Al-Qaeda in Iraq found a power vacuum. They came in, they employed, for a lack of a better word, all these out of work former Iraqi soldiers for the most part, put them to work going against us. And that's kind of where the insurgency came about.
What are you doing today?
I am in recruiting. I am a station commander here in the area for an Army recruiting installation. So that's what I do at the moment. So unfortunately, my combat days are behind me. I will not be going anywhere anytime soon, as much as I'd love to. I am a stateside member.
Elaborate on as much as I would want to.
Yeah, no, what's up?
No, you say as much as I would love to.
In my current role, in my current MOS, my job, I am. Yeah. We don't deploy. My job is.
No, but I'm saying I know because I followed you as a Facebook guy. I know how important health is to you, and I think not only health, but I think what you believe about country. I mean, you're the type of guy that Americans look up to because you would be willing to give your life for your country in service. And you believe, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that you believe in America so
Absolutely.
strongly
Absolutely.
that you see the need for Americans, and you'd be one of them, willing to stop whatever you're doing to keep it where it is, whether you had to travel to do it.
Absolutely. I have, for probably in the face of misunderstanding from a lot of my family and some friends, I have willfully gone back when I didn't need to,
Yeah,
specifically in 2015. But it's hard to put into words, and I think the only people that would really understand it is I kind of equate the military to a sports environment. You talked earlier in the
sure.
show about how our combat for you guys in the UCF football team is football, and the only thing I can ever equate sports, my especially, a locker room, like when I was in college, like I think a lot of guys realize they'll never replace that. And the only thing that comes close, and it probably exceeds it, the only thing that comes close to the Army or the military as a whole is probably sports
Sure.
and that locker room environment. But I to this day, like I'll be honest, I don't like what I do currently in the Army, but I love the dudes that I'm with. I just do. And
Sure.
that's fine, because you know what, I honestly, I go to work every day loving it because of the guys I'm going to go see, and we're just going to sit there and we're going to talk shit and clown on each other throughout the day. We're going to get our job done, but we're going to have fun doing it. And I don't think that exists outside of the military currently. Maybe sports is the only thing, but most people
Yeah.
don't get an opportunity to do that past high school. And I can't equate that to anything, because if you didn't get to play college sports or you're not fortunate enough to play pro sports, it's never really equivalent to what I would experience in my adult life. Because, growing up as a kid in sports, most kids' sports career ends in high school. That's not a job. That's not like something you could equate to. So when it comes to deployments, or when it comes to anything like this, unfortunately, Jerry, man, I've been in the Army 18 years, and I joined for a very specific reason. It was after 9/11, and we're still in Afghanistan. And I am the most adamant pro bring our fucking troops home guy at this point, because I
Sure.
just, I'm not trying to denigrate the military, and because of
No.
my position still in it, but you know what? We could have fought World War II damn near 5 times at this
Yeah.
point. And to me,
Right.
to me, you know what? And I get passionate about it, so I'm not going to hold my tongue, but that to me is a fucking problem.
Yeah.
Really is, because I
No,
shouldn't
I
be
hear you.
recruiting. And here's my issue: is I'm literally recruiting the individuals for the Army today who were born after 9/11. They have no
It's
idea
amazing.
what, they don't know what when I go to a school, or if I talk to a group and I tell them my Army story and why I joined, they don't have any concept of 9/11.
Yeah. Right.
They didn't live it.
That's incredible.
And
But
we're
but
asking
I
young men and women to sign up today
yeah.
to still
Right.
potentially go and do that. And to me,
It's a crazed world. It's mind-boggling if you were to, when I look online at weather, you're able to broaden the the forecast for a particular area, or you're able to change where you're at. I
right.
can't comprehend I can't comprehend the issues within our world that we and with respect, it's the United States of America. We are the policemen of the world, of too many hotspots in the world
Yep.
that we don't need to be and shouldn't have to be. And that's been a part of our history. And but you pissed on the wrong shoes when you came over here on 9/11,
That's a good
because
point.
we're
So
not
let
going
me
to
ask
take
you
that.
that. So I love to get people's perspective on 9/11, and I usually do it with people who are either, they were in the military at the time or in some service to the country at the time. But uh, I think it's important because people need to remember this and know what others went through and how they experienced it. I've told my version of it. That's why I joined.
Yeah.
But where and what were you doing on 9/11 when that happened?
I was at a doctor's appointment on 9/11, and I was just coming. It was the first appointment because I had to get to work. So it's like I always had like 7:45 doctor appointments, right? So I'm in the doctor's office, and I literally am walking from the doctor's office to the area where all the other patients to be were sitting. And we looked up at the TV inside the doctor's waiting area and watched a plane hit, the second plane hit. Watched the second plane hit the tower. And at that point, it was, what in the hell is going on today? And on my way home, did I learn about the plane that hit, what's the, good God, like I said, it's the whiskey talking. The third plane that hit the Pentagon. The third plane that hit the Pentagon. Now you know something crazy is going on in the world. And a lot of tears, man. I didn't know New York City. I'd never been to New York. I was in New York City one time prior to that.
Okay.
But, you know, it was life altering. It's a change ever since. I believe in America. I believe that America is good. I believe that we are the positive of the world. I truly believe that. Are there bad people? Yeah.
Of course.
Are there
that's human
power?
nature.
You know, are there power hungry people? Yes, no question. But I still think I'm so proud and so fortunate to be an American. I went to the radio station that day and we huddled and we just watched the TV. You know, we immediately, all of the radio stations became one, and that was the news station. So every music station became tied in to the news station. Whatever the news is, what's going on in the world in America today has trumped everything. And when the towers collapsed, we cried incredible tears, and everybody went home. You are to go home and be with your loved ones. You know, I went home to be with my wife because we didn't know what the world was about that day. But it was there are a few, my dad's death, my son's death, my mom's death, and 9/11 are about the four saddest days in my life. And it is equal with those.
And so this kind of leads me into my next question, because man, we're coming up on, it's going to be 19 years in September that happened. And you obviously have lived a much fuller life than I have at this point. So I'm just curious with what you see going on in the current climate of the country. Have you seen anything that you could remotely say is similar to this in your life, or is it a product of social media and cable news amplification, or are you generally seeing stuff in the country right now that you've never experienced before?
Yeah, I am. It's upside down. It's crazed. You know, I know I've had contact with law enforcement. Some of my better friends in my 25 years in Orlando were law enforcement. I'm a guy who watched Cops on TV. I'm a guy who watched, what was the 3-hour show that A&E did? Live PD?
Yeah,
Live PD.
First 48 or something like that?
No, Live PD.
Oh, Live PD. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
I was a big fan because I believe that people in this country, way too many people in this country, don't respect authority. I'm a guy who followed rules. If you don't like the rules, change the rules. Otherwise, follow the rules. I don't think there's anything wrong with having rules. And I think that's led to part of our problem. You know, here's an issue. Here's a most interesting issue. How many nights have you watched the 11 o'clock news and watched the lead story be a young Black American who has, for the 9th time, been arrested on a felony? And you know what that does? That reinforces to me that young black youth are troubled. You constantly reinforce. It's like the video when you see George Floyd murdered.
Mm-hmm.
When you see that over and over and over again, it's reinforced. When I see the 11 o'clock news with the lead of a young black male being arrested and then being told it's his 10th arrest in the last 5 years, it's reinforcing that young black men are problems. And I think that that's been ongoing in America. And that I think it was Mark Cuban who once said, if I'm on a side of the street where I come into contact, as I walk down the street, there are 5 black young men. I cross the street, and then I'm walking down the street, and I see 5 bald, tattooed white guys. I cross the street again. You know what I'm saying? Because it's reinforcing what we know to be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
So media has been a negative instigator of a lot of this because they showcase and reinforce some of the negatives in our society.
Well, that's all.
And I think they're guilty of some of that.
All of it. You don't know
and
it
especially
if you don't see
today,
it from them, right? You don't know it if you don't see it. And that's why
today, the politics, the media has had way too much influence pushing people one way or another based on their influence.
Well, yeah, and that's why I said earlier on in our discussion is that I think the media, they do nothing but reinforce whatever people are going to that specific network to look for.
Correct.
They're there to affirm. They're not there to inform.
Correct.
You're not getting anything other than entertainment from these outlets.
And it's my opinion that the 2020 election won't change anything.
Well, so let me ask you, so how do you feel this goes?
Well, in 2016, my wife went to bed and there was no way that Hillary Clinton was not going to be elected president.
Oh, you should have been out here. That was my first 2 weeks in California. I loved it. I was in a casino watching that shit, watching it burn around me, Jerry. It was hilarious.
See, you're in the West Coast. On the East Coast, it's like midnight. You went to bed thinking, well, Hillary Clinton is going to be elected president. Yeah. But I woke my wife up, I think, at 6 a.m. and said, Donald Trump's
when Wisconsin
president.
Was named, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So the polls, obviously, if you followed the political polls, Donald Trump is going to be swamped. He's going to lose all of the major states that are necessary to win the election. He's going to lose Florida. He's going to lose Pennsylvania. He's going to lose Wisconsin. The key states that he needs, Ohio. And if the polls are accurate, but 4 years ago, the polls were all wrong. So is there a silent majority similar to 2016?
I think it's bigger than ever this year.
I don't know. It'll take middle ground, but I cannot believe that enough people in America today look at the issues that we have of law and order, out of control in Portland, in Seattle, in Minneapolis, in Chicago, in Atlanta, in other major cities in America, and believe that what the left is offering is in our best interest. I don't think so.
That's why. So the thing I've been saying for weeks at this point is observing President Trump, following obviously the former Vice President Joe Biden. I think we are in an election right now where I don't think either one of them want to win.
Well, the interesting thing about Trump, and I've said, and I hope the Secret Service doesn't show up. I think the guy's a dunce.
I really don't.
Because I really believe that he's done and has leadership versus China in putting people back to work, in believing in America, in getting jobs for young blacks, Hispanics. I don't believe that we should have an open, porous border. I believe that there is evil that wants to be in America that he can offset. And I truly believe that. And that's why I will support him in 2020. But I do believe that there are evil people amongst us. And I don't think Joe Biden could, I don't think Joe Biden could spell the alphabet.
Yeah. And well, I've said this about Joe Biden before. I mentioned this earlier in the interview with you. Like, Paul Ryan did his announcement. I think he was announced as the VP in the Villages, but I'm sorry. I still remember it clear as day. Like the VP debate between Joe Biden and Paul Ryan. I thought on that night, Paul Ryan was murdered. Like, Joe Biden embarrassed Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
And that was 8 years ago. And that is not the same Joe Biden we have today.
No.
And I feel, this is why I say, I don't think either side wants to win. And this is a very odd election in my experience. Joe Biden at no point in time throughout all these primaries with the Democrats and the debates and anything was even remotely close to anything other than top 5. And somehow this is who we've ended up with as the.
Well, you go back, you remember the primary, the South Carolina primary.
Mm-hmm.
He was dead on arrival until South Carolina. He was DOA. I mean, until the black population of South Carolina resurrected his chance to win. Donald Trump has been his own worst enemy, where he has speech writers that prepare incredible moments for him. And then he will spend the next 2 hours tweeting this most ungodly, ridiculous, mind-boggling statements that bring him back down to even keel at best.
I agree 1,000%, Jerry.
But, I don't think, and I'm an Indiana guy by being a native, I don't think, Governor Pence, Vice President Pence, is a strong player. So I don't know. Look, I say this. I turned 67 in December. I'm not going to let the rest of this. I don't have that much time left. My wick is shorter than a lot of people. Okay, my fire's burning. I got a fire in my belly, but my wick is shorter. And so I have where I'm at. I go back to where we were at the beginning of this. I got 55 golf courses that know me by name. I got more golf balls. I could lose a golf ball on every hole that I play, and I will end up with golf balls. Okay? After 14 holes today, I swear as God is my witness, after 14 holes today, I was 2 under par.
What? So you're getting better, Jerry?
The last 4, the wheels came off.
I was about to say, you're getting better, because I've played
after
a few rounds.
14 holes, I was 2 under.
Wow.
Okay.
14,
and I had a chance to be 5 under.
That's
now, I'm
impressive.
talking about executive golf, where you play primarily par 3 holes.
Okay.
You're 175 yards.
Gotcha.
I now am putting 14 feet for birdie. One good shot, and I'm putting for birdie. Life is good. I got a golf cart. I got 2 cars and a golf cart, and most of the miles are on the back of a golf cart. Okay, in Florida weather, it's hot, it's humid, but by God, I'm okay with that. Versus the alternate. So life is good. I'm not going to let the 2020 elections ruin my life.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let anything happen. My wife and I have 1 chapter left. I don't know how many years, but we're going to enjoy the rest of our lives here. We believe by God's promise that we will live eternally. And I will share that with anybody. And it puts a twinkle in my eye and a positive feeling in my heart. So that's who we are.
I think that's great to be in that position, because you hit it. You're right in that whatever happens in this election is not really going to affect you.
For us.
It's just not. And that's good, because you've earned it. That good for you. Things, everyone, one of the biggest obstacles we overcome in recruiting is, whoever the president is. And I'll be honest, and it's an accurate thing that we convey. And then in 18 years, my life in the military has never changed based on who the fucking president has been. So I don't really care
Good.
one way or the other.
Right.
But the only thing I worry about is what's going to come within the next 10 years, just in the country, because, you know, my daughter's 14, you know,
Right.
like she's the one that's getting affected
Right.
by this stuff. So that's what I think and worry about.
See, the thing is, our enemies, and I don't know who our enemies are.
China.
I mean, I've lived, look, and when I was in school, Eric, and we practiced against the Russians when Khrushchev and the Kennedy was president. I mean, this is the first time I saw my dad cry was the night John Kennedy spoke to America on black and white TV about the Cuban Missile Crisis. My dad cried. My dad was a strong man. My dad fought in World War II. My dad was in the Philippines. My dad was a part of the occupation of Japan. My dad had a spine. My dad was a tough guy, but he was a loving man, okay? Yeah. But he cried that night. I saw tears in his eyes. So, you know, my whole point about America is there are those outside our boundaries who have said, we don't have to beat America. They will do it to themselves. And we're watching some of that. We're watching the demise of America based on Americans, not on a foreign power. And that saddens me.
Well, the foreign powers are definitely financially behind it. So that is very real. But no, I do give I put a lot of stock in what you just said, because you're right. We're doing it to ourselves. Think about this, Jerry. Let's go back to 9/11. 19 short years ago. Do you remember, like, literally the first 2 to 3 months after 9/11, how remember driving around the city? Like, everyone's out there with American flags. They're out there just, you know, everyone's on the side of the road, like whatever.
Well, you remember
like unity.
President Bush threw out the first ball, I think, of a Yankee game.
The Yankee Stadium.
Threw a strike.
Perfect. Nailed it.
I mean, every American had.
Right. Like, you couldn't even draw that up better.
The hair on the back of your neck stood.
I couldn't throw a strike right now, and that man did it after 9/11 in front of that crowd. Like, just, come on. Like, that's one of the most fucking amazing moments I've ever witnessed.
I know.
And he's not a pitcher. The dude's the president. Like, it's like asking a pitcher to do that is hard enough.
Right. We were all ready. If you called me to do what do you need me to do?
Yeah.
Every American felt that way.
We need that moment again.
I know.
And we don't have it.
And I can't see it. I can't see it in my lifetime. I just can't see it. And that saddens me.
Yeah.
Because I am so proud. And like I said, honest to God, if the Army called today and said, we need you to need me to do what? All you have to do is ask, what do you need me to be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are men and women my age and every age who would be that way, honestly. And yet, on the other hand, it may be to fight other Americans tonight. That's how sad it is.
I don't think as of today, I would never say we'll get to that point. And I would never.
No, I hear you.
I would never put myself in that position, because
when I say fight other Americans, I don't mean that as in a civil war. I mean,
no, I get it.
We are so uniquely.
We're all watching the same thing, and this is a problem with what's going on in these cities. These, you know, Portland and some of the other cities. Like, this is a problem because what are you accomplishing? I just want to know. That's what I want to know. Like, you know what? Let's stop everything. Let's hand whoever the fuck wants to pretend that they're in charge and be like, all right, give me some realistic goals. Don't give me your, like, let's defund the police. Stop it. Give me an adult proposal. Right. Give me something that's from an adult, and then let's see what the hell we can do. Because, you know, all these mayors of these cities who are just acquiescing to these mobs and just giving in, like, you know what? At the end of the day, you're still in charge of that fucking city. So how about acting like you're in charge of it and stop trying to placate a mob?
How embarrassing!
You're never going to win.
How embarrassing was it? Do you remember the Minneapolis mayor?
Yeah,
when he showed up at one of these events, and he looked like a college student.
Yeah.
And his tail was between his legs when he was run off out of the area.
Not a leader.
And then the same thing happened to the Portland mayor the other night.
Yeah. He's trying to pretend that he's a part of it, and they still don't want him.
Right. Well, not only that, then because the federal government people were out there, Trump sent out there, and they were trying to ensure that this federal building was not overtaken. And so they were tear gassing. The mayor got tear gassed, but the crowd was chanting about him being tear gassed.
Yeah. And resigned and all this shit. Yeah. Look, and you know what, Jerry, I've talked about this with my girl. I mentioned she's a partner in a wine label. She's got obviously very successful people with her. I know one of them pretty well. Well, two of them pretty well, but I know others in this state. Let's talk about Elon Musk for an example. You know, the CEO and the creator of Tesla and all people like that. And then look, you can say what you want about the Silicon Valley tech executives and how most of them are far left leaning and financing a lot of this stuff. But these are the people in our country who are super smart. And let's just talk about it from that perspective. Here's the issue. The smartest people in this country, they see how people run for politics or political office are treated. What's the incentive? Oh, I got to get my life ripped apart and torn upside down for a fucking, what, $400,000 to be the president when I'm out here making 10 million to run a hedge fund? Or right. What's the trade-off for the smart people in this country to get into politics? There is none. There's no incentive. No. There's absolutely none. You couldn't twist the arm of these people to make them run because you're just going to tear their life apart because they don't have the right letter next to their name. That's the problem. And that's where we are in this country because we're forced in a population of 330 million in a two-party system that you pointed out earlier. It's like, hey, you know what? Get on that side of the room or get on this side of the room and there's no middle. That's not realistic.
And that's sad for America because
that's not how we were intended.
No, for the majority of people, you know, we're brought up to get along with each other. Yeah. And there may be some differences here and there, but then let's go into a room and let's figure out. Look, I've been a program director of a radio station, multiple radio stations, where I was the boss. But what I wanted input from everybody. And then, hey, we're going to come to an agreement, and then we're going to go forward, and that's what we're going to do. And everybody's going to be on the same page. And you may not have got everything that you wanted, me neither. But we're going to come to a simple agreement and go forward. And that's what's best for us. And we're not doing that in our own country because it would weaken me or weaken my side. Yep. And that's what we've evolved into.
You just described leadership, and politics doesn't employ any of that because each side wants all their way.
And with power comes money. Yep. You know, with power, big money is involved, right?
Yeah. And
influence.
And that's right. And that's why I said, like, the people in this country who could probably make a difference, there's nothing in it for them.
Right.
You know, and we want to play to the altruistic value of, hey, do what's best for your country, you know, public service. And those are great things. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it because what's attached to that is someone's personal life is going to get torn apart.
Sure.
And there's no fucking perfect people out there, but the only ones that act like they are perfect are the ones doing the digging.
The thing that disappointed me more than anything, though, these last 3+ years was, and I told you, I didn't vote for Donald Trump.
Yep.
I couldn't because of the way he conducted himself versus other opponents. I'll be honest. I mean, it had nothing to do with living in Florida, but I followed Marco Rubio.
I was the same way. I was a Rubio.
Marco Rubio is, in my opinion, is extremely intelligent. We went to a couple of his campaign rallies only because we had access to them. We were there in Orlando where he spoke. And I just felt he was brilliant on many areas. And I aligned myself. And yet, you know, to hear little Marco this, little Marco that. So he became a laughing stock.
Yeah,
Huh?
because Rubio defeated himself by trying to play Trump's game. When he came out with the
Correct.
hand shit, instead of just being the adult, he tried to
Right.
all right, let me just play the fucking kid game too. And that's
Correct.
why he lost.
And and everybody fell along the side. So, uh, but like I say, with the way the situation is today, and I think Donald Trump has been his own worst enemy by his outlandish
Absolutely.
acts and behavior.
Agree
And yet
100%.
there are moments, and I'm not stupid. I know that when he goes out and does speeches, et cetera, it's speech writers, and I don't think that becomes the shining moment when some speech writer has prepared something that a president or you know a, a candidate has now read a teleprompter. But I think there are good things behind those people. A particular party is not just one person, but it's groupthink, and I think that's where we become problematic.
Yep.
In today's society, is that and I come back to this whole thing about even the word woke. It pisses me off when I hear people use that, especially people like me. Oh, I say, well, I'm woke. I don't even know what the f that's supposed to mean. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
come on, be who you are. Don't try to be part of the gang here.
Yep. Well, and General Patton, obviously, I'm sure you've heard of him, but General Patton, or whether he said it or not, it's one of the quotes attributed to him. He said, "If everyone's thinking the same thing, then nobody's thinking." Right.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are, and it goes back to what I think you talked about very early on in this, is that anybody who wants to have an opinion different to what is going on right now is somehow branded every possible negative
Well, I
adjective
woke
in the
up.
book.
I woke up one day, and I was not only a racist, but I
Mhm.
was privileged.
Yep.
And I go, "You fucking talking about me? Really? I got more birth defects than the state of Maine. Okay, so spare me with this
Oh,
privilege BS.
goodness.
You know, I mean, we were the last people in the country. We grew up in the country. We didn't have carpet. We didn't have color TV. We didn't have gas. I mean, we were last. We were always wondering. I mean, when we went to the dentist, we didn't have Novocaine. You know what I mean? So we weren't privileged at all. We were anything but privileged. The privilege I had, the privilege I had was my mom and dad were married. They loved each other.
Yep.
Not only that, my dad got up and went to work every day. My mom took care of us. We were privileged because my mom and dad, every meal we prayed. Every night before we went to bed, we prayed. My mom led a prayer. Every Sunday, we went to Sunday school and church. That's the privilege I had of having loving parents
Yep.
who cared and brought us up in a family, unlike today's world, where, especially in the Black community, there is 25% families with two parents. I
Yep.
mean, no wonder we have all the problems we have in that community.
I
You
talked
can't
about.
help when you have others. It's like peers. When I went to college, the first night that I went to college, I went and got drunk. You know why? Because all the guys wanted to go get drunk. I was influenced by my peers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you live in a world where you don't have a dad, but yet you have influence by other young men who are, whether they're gangbangers or whether they're drug pushers or whatever, you're going to be influenced by those peers, right?
Yep.
I had influence growing up of loving parents, of family. That's the privilege that I had. So if I'm privileged, that's where I got it.
Well, and that's what
Not because I'm a white guy.
right. Well, and you're right. 75% of Black Americans in this country will be raised by a single parent. Okay, so that's the stat we're talking about. And then if we go back to the Black Lives Matter website specifically, they're in their mission statement, they want to attack and this basically do away with the nuclear family, everything that you just described, right? They feel like you can raise the child by a village. And I disagree with that. And, unfortunately, my daughter and her mother and I we never stayed together, but we've both been very strong presences in her life. I was raised by both parents, still married to this day. I agree with everything you just said. And I'm not saying that there are not going to be exceptional human beings raised by a single parent,
Of
but you know
course, of
what?
course.
The statistics prove that for the most part, if you do get the opportunity to be raised by both parents, you're going to do a hell of a lot better than
See,
if you don't.
Eric, as I told you, prior to going to college, I had influence from my dad. Now I'm on my own.
Mhm.
I go from northern Indiana, farm community, to Minneapolis, Minnesota, junior college basketball player. And now my peers, I was a follower. I was a follower when I went to college. Junior college, freshmen, sophomores. Guess who were my peers? Sophomores. They were the guys who had already been in college a year. We started smoking weed. I didn't even know the word marijuana till I got to college. All of a sudden I'm smoking weed, because my peers
He's
did.
not wrong. He's not
All
wrong.
my buddies were. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like, hey, we start drinking beer every night, start smoking cigarettes. Those are my peers. And if you think about, if you grow up and you're 10 and you're 12 and you're 14, you don't have dad, and you got all these guys who are, as we would label them, a gang, as your peers, well, of course you're going to side with them. I mean, those are the guys you look up to.
Yep.
What are they teaching you? They're teaching you evil. They're teaching you bad things, but that becomes your life. That's what has happened when there's breakdown in family. There's no question about that. I lived in the country. Let's say that you live in town. Let's say you live in inner city. Well, you're going to be influenced by all of that that's around you. That's what you're going to grow up in. So I'm sorry for those people. I truly am. I'm sorry for those people. I didn't cause it. Don't blame me.
Yep.
Don't chastise me because my friggin' skin is white. Don't call me privileged. You've never walked in my shoes. You've never breathed for me. Worry more about yourselves and try to correct the evil and ills around your own,
Mhm.
and realize where those issues begin. But don't point at some fingers of people you don't know. It's not their fault. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think that with what you just said last there, I agree with 1,000,000%. Is that we cannot approach any issue in this country with this blanket statement of somebody else somehow has the benefit of this preconceived outcome, because that's not realistic, right? You have the equal opportunity in this country, but you do not have an equal outcome. I proved it already. I met you because I wanted to do what you did, and I still haven't been able to do it because I've been doing other shit, right? But you know what? If it was the other way, I'd been doing what you did, but that didn't work out.
Eric, the beauty of it, and I've heard an interview where Morgan Freeman was talking, and I think he was talking with Don Lemon of CNN. And Don Lemon asked if there's such a thing as systemic racism to him. And he said, no, look at us. Look at you. Look at me. Look at where we're at. You're on CNN. I'm one of the most well-recognized actors in America. When you think about today, and I'm not talking about in the 60s when I grew up. I grew up in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up when the Selma riot, I mean, when blacks were beaten up, when blacks were hosed. I'm asking my dad, why? I'm serious. I'm asking my dad, why? Why is this going on? Why is George Wallace not allowing black students to go to school at these schools? Why is that? And he was explaining it to me. We didn't have that in our family. We grew up in a county where there were no blacks. We grew up in an all-white county in northern Indiana. We were 20 miles away from Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I don't know what the population was with blacks. Probably 25% of the city were blacks.
Yeah,
there were high schools that were all black, etc. But that's my whole point. When you have that kind of influence, you're going to have those kinds of problems if you don't have that nuclear family. There is no question about that.
And that's there's so much to
But
get
see,
in.
the last thing I wanted to say, and I got sidetracked, and again, it's the liquor talk, and my apologies to
Let
this
it do it.
audience.
Let it go.
But when you look in America today, you have a former president who served 8 years who was black. You
Yep.
have governors, you have senators, you have police chiefs, you have mayors, you have teachers, you have professors. Blacks can aspire to be, and I don't like in the world today that we have black culture, that we have to segregate by talking about it. I just don't like that we have to have a black
No, I know.
caucus
I agree 1,000%. Like, this is
because it becomes
America.
segregation.
This
It's
is
you and
America.
me.
It's
It's you and
America.
me.
Yep.
Correct. And anytime that we want to talk about black, white, well, then we're segregating. And I don't like that.
I don't
I'm
like
uncomfortable with
the
that.
hyphenated American, because you know what?
Correct.
No other country does it. I've been to 21 countries in my life, very fortunate through the military. I've been to Germany, I've been to Italy. You know what? There are black individuals in every one of those countries, and not a single one of them refers to themselves as an African Italian, an African German.
That's
But
funny.
we come here and we want to segregate and play the identity politics game, and not just Trump, or not Trump, but not just like realize and lump everyone into the fact that we're Americans, and
Correct.
that's what we are supposed to be. We are this giant
Correct.
melted pot. We got diversity, whatever the fuck it is you want to call it, and use your buzzword. But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be Americans. We're not supposed to hyphenate it.
I know.
Because for some reason, I'm not a Polish American. I'm just a white American, right?
I don't even know what I am.
Exactly.
You know, my twin brother did all this genealogy.
You're
we're part Irish. We're part.
You're as you could be Puerto Rican for some of the O'Neills I know.
Don't know.
Which what you are.
It doesn't. I'm me. I'm me. You know what? I'm going to go to bed tonight. I'm going to get up tomorrow, and I'm going to look in the mirror and go, "Hey, it's you." That's all I am. And you know what I want to be? I want to be a good guy.
Yep.
As I tell people on my golf cart up here, what I want to do is wave and smile. I may not know you. How could I not like you if I don't know you?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I just want to be an American, and I want my fellow Americans to be with me, because at the end of the day, our enemies are not within these borders. They just aren't.
Amen, brother.
They just aren't, man. All right, Jerry, like I said, look, we're about to hit the 3-hour mark. No commercials. No commercials, because we don't do that terrestrial radio thing where we got
no.
I do.
I don't know how we could have kept anybody past the 5-minute mark.
I don't know. I'll check out the analytics. Maybe they won't get past the 7-minute mark and get to this point. But
I've never had more fun. Okay,
yeah,
this was fun for me.
I hope they do.
And trust me, I've watched you on your videos and your workouts, and I admire you greatly. And I respect what you have done as a young person in life. I'm twice your age, probably. Like I said, I don't have much wick left. God will direct how much that is. I'm going to try to enjoy it, but I am honored to be in your presence, and I appreciate what you and other American soldiers, men and women, have done. I am pro-cop. I think that 99.9% of those people, men and women, are there to protect and serve, and I honor that. And like I said, I have not been given a lot of intellect. I've had the ability to go in front of an audience with a microphone in my hand and just talk until I can't anymore. And some have honestly enjoyed that, and I appreciate that. But for what you have accomplished in your young life, thank you so much for what you've done, soldier.
Jerry, it's me that's supposed to be too kind on this show, but you have definitely exceeded that. Everyone watching, listening on the podcast, Jerry O'Neill, 24 years as the UCF sports reporter for UCF football, the greatest sports talk show host in Orlando history. There will never be another Jerry O'Neill. There just won't.
And in the present state, he was 2 under through 14 today.
Remember
before
that
the wheels came off.
What put it this way, nobody's ever probably been 2 under par through 14, and also the greatest talk show host in a specific city. Okay? That's Jerry O'Neill. Like I said earlier on, the man has entertained my idiocy for too long. And
I have been empty for an hour.
Yeah, I
Empty.
haven't. I keep refilling.
You're on the West Coast though.
I am on the West Coast. You're right. It's hey, you got to move, my friend. You're the one that told us to retire in the villages. So again, Jerry, thanks for coming on. If you are listening and watching, please subscribe to the YouTube channel on There Will Be Bourbon. Check it out on Apple and Spotify podcast. It's out there on all the podcast sites. You know how this works at this point. Look it up on iHeartRadio. There Will Be Bourbon. There will be more great guests like this man right here. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.
We'll stay in touch, man.
Absolutely, Jerry. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, Eric.